Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts, lost in paradise.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Spring has come to Anime Town, so of course, today we will talk about all the new premieres that ended up on our watch list in a couple of moments in our sneak peek, and after that we will discuss the first season of the hot new battle shonen manga adaptation Jujutsu Kaisen. So break the curse, time is running short, shorter than you think, and don't pause the pod, we'll be right back. Alright, here we are in the sneak peek, and of course, as usual, we're gonna talk about all the new anime premieres from spring season. Yeah, and as usual we have our three categories, the nopes, the maybes, and the keepers. So the nopes are shows that we do not intend to keep watching, the maybes shows that have piqued our interest, but we don't know if we'll stick with them. You know, there are some negatives, there's some positives maybe, or we're just not sure about them. And the keepers, the shows we liked a lot, we liked what we saw, and we want to keep going. So that's what we are gonna talk about right now. And yeah, as usual, just, you know, a couple of things that we notice about the first 1, 2, or 3 episodes, depending. It feels like this premiere, the shows that we wanted to watch were stretched out pretty far. Like, you know, the first episode of one show that you wanted to watch aired when already 2 or 3 episodes of the other show had shows had started. So yeah, it's, you know, the premieres are a bit more stretched a bit thin, I guess.
Yeah, usually there was a little more uniformity. This season, like, as soon as the last season ended, My Hero Academia started that weekend, and then it was like everything else is like 1 to 2 weeks behind.
Yeah. Though to be fair, My Hero Academia, oh, we'll get to that. But yeah, so since I'm the one with the only nope, I'm gonna start with that, and that is Joran, the Princess of Snow and Blood, which is set in an alternate universe, steampunk Japan, around, I guess, 1935 or something. So right before World War II, at least in our universe. I don't know if it will happen here, but because in this universe, the Tokugawa shogunate is still in power. So the transition to the Meiji era, I guess, didn't happen in a way. And yeah, our main character Sawa is part of some kind of secret organization that hunts certain people and their ability to imbue their bodies with some kind of spirit magic, and they work for the Tokugawa government and everything. The name of the organization is Nue. And Sawa also had some special abilities. She can fuse with a white crow and get some kind of undead powers. And there's like this cool effect where her skull shimmers through her skin and everything. It's really eerie. It's nice to look at. And Sawa got adopted into the organization when she was a child. There's like this person that murdered her whole village called Jamone or something, or Jamon, and stole the blue blood of her people, and and thus the special power that her people have. And he also seems to work, that person also seems to work against the government. So her and the organization, so Nue's goals are aligned, and that's why she's working for them. Which is, you know, as these things go, a bit convenient and probably a lie. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone from the organization actually was behind the killing of her, you know, of her village and everyone there, and getting their hands on her blood to, I don't know, create super soldiers or some shit. Also, she has this little sister character, which is not really her little sister, but a girl whose parents Sawa actually killed. And then she took in the girl afterwards, kind of like as redemption or something, or to make up for her sin, because she didn't intend to kill the parents, I guess. Also, every one of her allies kind of wants to kill her for some reason. Literally everyone is like, oh, I want to kill Sarah next, blah, 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 and really tries to, I don't know, to annihilate her. It's really weird. It's a weird show. And
Sounds it.
Yeah, and I really couldn't connect to it. I don't mind weird shows. I think it's cool if they're quirky, if there's some interesting stuff to them. And there's some interesting stuff here to see, definitely. And, you know, the whole setup with the, you know, the history taking a different turn and the shogunate still being in power. and everything, and thus the whole government structure and everything being completely different. That's really interesting. But yeah, it just, I don't know. Aside from all that, the cool effects and change in drawing style when Sava transform, that is pretty good. But the animation quality, aside from that, is really middling. And the fights are pretty boring. Like, there's nothing much interesting happening. There's no interesting choreography, nothing. I also really didn't like any of the characters. Like, not at all. Like, I didn't connect to Sava. Her little sister's okay, but her buddies from work and everything, everyone is kind of an asshole. And it's just like, no. I was just mostly bored after watching the first 2 episodes. I was like, nah, I'm done with this. That's enough out of this show. So that's why it's my one and only nope, or definitive no anywhere. It might be joined by other shows in the coming weeks, but we'll see. So far, it's my only one. All right, John, what is your first maybe?
So yeah, I got a bunch of maybes that might turn out to be nopes. I don't know. But the first one I checked out was Combatants Will Be Dispatched.
Uh-huh.
Written by the same dude who done created Konosuba, so it's got that flavor to it.
I mean, that has worked for us in the past, not only in case of Konosuba, but also, as Princess Connect.
I mean, yes, but, this is... I mean, he wrote Konosuba, and it was a big hit, and it was fun, and it was stupid, and it was dumb. But, and then he tried again with what was it called? Rise Up Animal Road, and it was kind of like,
It was fun, but it was also, I don't know, the main gag of that show was kind of super weird. Like that guy. I mean, that guy being obsessed with animals is fine, but he was a bit too obsessed with them. So it I don't know, it weirded me out.
Yeah, so I mean, bless this guy. He's trying to keep making big things, and he's getting his projects, animated. So, good for him.
Yeah.
I just fear that they kind of will start to blend together because it's a lot of the same style of comedy and whatnot.
I guess. I mean, yeah, if you have a writing style and a style of comedy and brand of comedy you use usually, then that's probably going to be in all of your work.
I mean, the conceit of this show is that the Kisaragi Corporation is an underground criminal group that has somehow made its way into being an evil mega corporation. They have world domination in their grasp. Mm-hmm. So they've decided to try their hands at interstellar conquest instead.
Sure, why not?
A quick dice roll nominates their chief operative, Combat Agent Number 6, to be the one to explore an alien planet. And the first thing he does when he gets there is to change the sacred incantation for a holy ritual to the most embarrassing thing he can think of. Because, of course. But evil deeds are business as usual for Kisaragi operatives, so if 6 wants a promotion and a raise, he'll have to work much harder than that. For starters, he'll have to do something about the other group of villains on the planet who are calling themselves the Demon Lord's Army or whatever. After all, this world doesn't need 2 evil organizations. And he kind of... he and this construct that goes with him named Alice happen into this medieval kingdom of sword and sorcery, and just to make sure you were on the same page, number 6 holds his hand out in front of him and he tries casting Explosion, and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. Right down to, it's the same music from Konosuba. I get it. It's the thing that I know. So, yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to cash in on. I mean, it might be fine. I don't know. Well, I'll have to see where it goes.
Sure. I mean, could turn out fun, but maybe it's just too much of the same you've already seen in a way. So,
what do you got?
My first maybe is the remake of Shaman King. I think that's how it's pronounced. At least the Japanese.
I mean, I'd always said it Shaman.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I'm not sure what the English pronunciation would be. But this is a remake of an old manga or old television series, however you might want to look at it, which I watched all the way through, the original one, which was released in 2001, ran until 2002, right?
Has it been 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years since Shaman King. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, it's been a while, and
we're old.
Yeah, no shit. Don't remind me. But yeah, the original manga ran way beyond the release of the anime. So the old anime got an original ending. Like I said, it ended in 2002. The manga ran until 2004. So there's a lot more grounds to cover. So now they're going to do that with this remake. Of course, they're also gonna recount the story we've already seen. And like a lot of remakes where that is the case, it moves a bit too fast, which is very evident in the way they rush through one of the main characters, Amidamaru's backstory in the first episode. It's not a big problem yet, but it's just like I see the signs where it's like, hey, we've already seen this, so rush through this. We've had this in Hunter x Hunter. We've had this in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I never liked it. I was like, yes, we have seen this before, but not from this crew. And also, times change, and maybe you can put some new story beats in there. You don't have to fucking rush through it just to get through the material that was already covered in the old show. That only makes it bad if you just don't give it the time it needs. And I'm always worried when it comes to these remakes that, they do that. So at least in the beginning, until you get to the new material. So stick a bit too close to the manga and everything, and don't actually adapt, but just take the panels and animate them, and that's it. Don't not try to put the filler stuff in there that's necessary to develop the characters a bit more, or stuff like that. Or they're even cutting things out that I would have liked to have. But anyway, yeah. So that's one of the things where I'm like, okay, I need to see where this goes. I need to see what they actually do with this. If they rush through it, if I can latch onto these characters again. And the other thing is the show is barely animated.
Oh, no.
It's not quite a PowerPoint anime. Thanks again to my friend Stan for letting me borrow that term, by the way. Like, that house husband show is apparently, that is airing right now.
Oh, no.
Because
people were really excited for that.
Yeah, but it seems that is just the manga panels with some pans without any actual animation. It's more a visual novel. So, yeah, but regardless, Shaman King is still feels pretty bare bones. Like, I would have wanted a really well animated version of this to heavily improve on the action scenes of the original, which wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. Zebek animated the old stuff. Bridge is animating the new show, who just did Talentless Nana. But it's a battle shonen through and through, so you'd want the fights to look cool. If you go through the effort of remaking it. If I just want the full story without any of the, the flourishes anime has to offer as a medium, or is able to add it to the experience I already had, I can just read the manga, kinda. But like I said, it's not bad, and there's some actual animation in this. But it's like the battles are very short, and if there are actual fights and confrontations, it's just like it's very 90s. Like, or early 2000s, where it's like you see attacks with speed lines and everything, and then you see still standing characters, and then one arm moving, kind of like that, and you see like a weapon into the screen and everything, and it's not like all the stuff you're used to by now with camera pans and Sakuga explosions and shit like that, and some wild transitions and everything like that, or stuff you see in JoJo's, right? Where some weird color contrast and all that stuff, and it feels very old just in terms of how the actual staging and presentation is handled. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing if it wants to be a callback show. It's like, hey, you remember that shit, right? And bringing you back to your youth and whatnot, so 20 years ago. But still, we have had so many cool action shows in recent years that have done this a lot better. So this feels just a bit worn out. So I don't know if I'll stick with it. If I stick with it, I'm probably not going to review it because I've already watched the old show. I haven't reviewed the old show, but it's like, yeah, I don't know if I just want to write about that stuff again or talk about that stuff extensively. So I'm probably just going to watch it on the side and maybe do a review for the quick and death. I don't know. But it's just like, yeah, okay. I hope this will be fun. And I remember really liking some of the characters in that show and some of the plot developments. And I really want to see the real ending, the manga ending and so on. I mean, judging from the runtime, only half of the manga was covered anyway, so in the old show. So, I kind of want to stick with it just because of that. But again, it felt a bit lackluster when watching the first 2 episodes. And I haven't seen more yet, but it's just like, expected a bit more from this. So, yeah, I'm a bit lukewarm in it. But that doesn't mean it's going to turn into a no, but it might.
Yeah, I wanted to check this out too, but fuck Netflix.
Yeah, it's a Netflix jail. I mean,
and it
doesn't stop me, but still.
I mean, yeah, spoilers, we're going to be talking about Beastars at some point, and that was a show I felt like actually hunting down. I don't want to have to do it every season if there's a show I'm interested in.
That's true. No, and you shouldn't have to, but that's how it is with the Netflix shows, and we have discussed this several times, so...
Yes.
There's only hoping that it will change someday, but right now it doesn't seem to. Beastars are coming out in summer, right, on Netflix?
Yeah, in like June or July or something.
What the fuck? Yeah.
I would have figured it would have been about... Now?
Yeah. I mean, the season's wrapped up. They should have produced the dub by now, so I have no idea what's keeping them. Whatever. I mean, we've watched it, so we're going to talk about it once that comes up. All right, John, what is your next maybe?
Dragon Goes House Hunting.
What?
Dragon Goes House Hunting.
Is that a spin-off of Dragon Maid?
No, actually.
Oh.
Although, worth mentioning that there is a series of shorts airing this season about Dragon Maid before the second season actually airs, I think, later this year. So if you want your 2-minute week fix of Toru and Kobayashi and company, you can watch that. Yes, Dragon Goes House Hunting. Letty is not very good at being a dragon. Actually, he's so terrible at it that his dad went and kicked him out of the house. What is a skittish monster of myth to do in a world where everyone sees him as material for their next suit of armor? Why? No. Why find a safe place to call home, of course, with the help of a slightly evil, elvish real estate agent? Letty's quest for the ultimate draconic domicile begins. This is a cute show about a dragon who just wants to find a house, and the slightly evil guy trying to help him find one. Don't worry about that part. I wonder what kind of legs this show actually has, because every week is obviously going to be the same joke. I found this house for you. Oh, let's see it. Well, there's this one thing about it. Oh no, I guess we'll have to find another place then. And it seems like the cycle is going to repeat for 12 to 13 weeks.
I mean, they can get creative with that depending on what is wrong with that specific house, but you're right. It's just...
They can, because in the second episode, this might be a demon lord named Diaria finds him this place. It's like, oh, this is like an old ancient temple and it's filled with traps. Well, I don't want to live in a house that's completely filled with traps.
Understandable.
All right. I found you this old secluded house. Oh, that sounds great. It's haunted. Sounds not great.
So is the dragon drawn really cute, or is it, I don't know, is it more realistic dragon?
I guess slightly realistic. It's like this smallish red dragon guy. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it on its face, the concept is fine. I don't dislike it, but I do wonder how they can keep it fresh.
Yeah.
So, it's a very pretty show, though, so I'll give it that.
Who's doing it?
I believe it's Signal MD.
Okay, that doesn't ring a bell right now, but probably come across them before.
Yes, I remember they did, holy shit. Fuck. Words. God damn it. Fuck.
I'm not familiar with that show.
Shut up. I can't. The one rom-com that I love, whose name escapes me. Fuck.
The one rom-com you love, like the only one. That's not narrowing it down, my dude.
Signal MD, the same studio that produced Recovery of an MMO show.
Ah, the good rom-com. Okay.
Yes, one of the best rom-coms, as a matter of fact.
All right.
But yeah, it's cute. I don't know how long I'll stick with it, but it seems fine.
I mean, that could be as a relaxed anime or something, to tune out to after work. That might be enough. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it might even end up in the quick and the dead, but I'll see whether or not I keep watching it. I don't know if it's the sort of thing that merits a full review. Also, I forgot, it's one of those shows, the one where because it's a fantasy world, we have to equate a lot of things in RPG terms.
Ah, of course.
So yes. Letty has a stat sheet, and it's like,
Yes. I mean, I like it when they, put some thought into that. It was one of the only things I liked about Shield Hero, one of the few things that they actually put some thought into the fucking MMO mechanics and everything. So if that's done right, that's cool, but you can go overboard with it or, get yourself lost in the minutia, or it's just not appropriate for the kind of show that is. So
yeah, I mean, if they had just played it as, a fantasy show, like, oh, okay, but on the eye catches in a section of the first episode, they show it off, and it's like, I really don't care about this. In the context of this story, I don't care about this. Nobody cares about this. Okay, maybe somebody cares about this, but I'm willing to bet the large majority of people don't. So what do you got next?
Next, I would have, maybe that is probably one of your keepers, because that would be Zombieland Saga Revenge. So I don't know. Do you?
Yes.
That's one of your keepers. Okay, then we're going to keep that for later. So my next maybe would be Nomad, which is the sequel to Megalobox, which I have done a review of quite a couple of episodes ago. I remember the episode title, that is Mixed Bags of Gold. We also, I think, reviewed the first season of...
is it Golden Kamui?
Golden Kamui in there, yeah. So, but yeah, if you want to look that up, I had some mixed feelings on the show. I like the story, I like the characters, I like the style. The style is fantastic. So, trying to make this of a late 90s, early aughts show where in the transition phase between digital and hand-drawn, purely hand-drawn cell stuff. And so a bit of rough on the edges and everything, and that's how it looked, and I loved that. I love the soundtrack. I love, like I said, the characters and everything. What I didn't like was the actual thing this show was about, mainly boxing, because I thought the boxing looked boring and super slow and too methodical and too realistic for a show that is about people with fucking bionic limbs and metal strung to their fucking arms and having like these half cyborg box fights. It was way too basic. So I really didn't like that about the show.
Yeah, that seems like the sort of thing you could lean into and make like really awesome.
Yes. You go all out, you get super crazy, you do like super crazy Falcon punches for everyone. You take Hajime no Ippo, which already has insane super moves, and you dial that up to fucking 11. And they didn't do that. They dialed it back to -2. So that was a disappointment. And I still don't like the actual boxing in this sequel. Again, it's still slow, and it's still too methodical, and it's still too slow pace, everything, just like the first season. But the artwork and the soundtrack in the show are amazing as ever, and I expect equally good character development in this one. We quickly meet our main character from the first season again, Joe, who, after winning the Megalomania tournament 5 years ago, spoilers for season 1, sorry, has lost his way again. Like, he returned to illegal underground fights, is drunk all the time, and addicted to painkillers. I assume all of that is because his coach and friend Nandu died, which was a very important character in the first season, and probably the best one. But he kind of is following him around as an obvious specter and voice of reason in this. He always appears out of blue and talks to him, so I'm pretty sure he's dead. And that's probably what kind of what let Joe derail. So I don't know. That will be interesting to find out. And he's fighting someone from his past. I forgot that guy's name, but that dude gets him out of his funk, maybe, or that's what it seems like. And now Joe might be following the guy to get a rematch and find his way again, and probably fight some other strong people on the way there. Maybe it's some kind of road trip this season that would fit with the name Nomad and everything. So, looking forward to what's going to happen with that. I don't know if I'll completely stick with it. Like I said, the only thing that kept me going in the previous season were the characters, was the story. The actual boxing was just really, really a chore after a while. And if the characters and the story don't cut it in this one, and if Nanbu is really gone, and he was the best character in the previous season, then that might be a problem. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I definitely want to give it a chance for the art style alone and everything, but I don't know if I'll be able to stick with it. So yeah. John, what is your next maybe?
Odd Taxi.
Ah, right. I heard about this. It sounded weirdly cozy, but also kind of sinister. I don't know. Tell me about it.
Odd Taxi is all about this taxi driver named Odokawa who lives a very mundane life. He doesn't have any family, doesn't really hang out with others, and he's an oddball who is narrow-minded and doesn't talk much. The only people he can call his friends are his Dr. Goriki and his classmate from high school, Kakibana. All of his patrons seem to be slightly odd themselves. There's a college student who's a clout chaser named Kabasawa, a nurse with secrets named Shirakawa, a comedy duo that just can't catch a break named the Homo Sapiens, a local hoodlum named Dobu, an idol group that's just starting out named Mystery Kiss. All the mundane conversations that end up intercrossing between all of these groups eventually lead to a girl who's gone missing. So, Beastars, but you're a taxi driver.
Sounds not as enticing as one might think when, coming up with that show, but...
I mean, the first 2 or 3 episodes, there's some world building going on. And at the end of the 3rd episode, there was some shit. So it seems like this show has some promise to it. I worry about one thing with it, though. The manga for this show started this year in January.
Oh.
So...
this might be one of those projects where the manga and the anime run kind of parallel to each other and then wrap up at the same time, or the story is already completely outlined in a script and then they do just, both things at the same time. We've had this before.
That's true, and that's possible, but I still worry that might not be the case. So
it's sure if they do straightforward adaptation, that sounds really weird. Just so few weeks or months, between. I mean, they would have had to start the animation process and everything right when the manga started. So that
even earlier than that, I would think.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you're right. It can always turn out bad if they don't coordinate right and everything. But let's see. This sounds like one of those projects that start at the same time and everything. And maybe the manga will have a different ending than the anime, but not necessarily. So I think Planet Width was the same in that regard. I think that also had manga and anime at the same time. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm interested to see where it goes, but I do wonder about that though.
Yeah. Well, I wish you good luck.
Yeah, I guess one of us will find out. What you got?
The World Ends With You.
Hey.
Is that a maybe for you, or is that a keeper?
I mean, it should be a maybe because I played the game and I'm just watching this to be like, I want to see Neku and everybody in animated form. So we can just talk about it now.
Okay, all right, sure. So this is based on a DS game, which has been recently, or not that recently, a couple of years ago, ported to the Switch. Or I think it's getting a sequel soon with a very weird main character design. Anyway, not fond of that weird fast-paced chin strap bullshit.
Listen, man, that first trailer got me hyped for implications, so I'm ready for it.
Hey, I'm not familiar with the story of the original game. I bought it for the Switch. I heard that version is actually not that good, so I maybe should play it on the DS instead.
It's a problem of don't play it in TV mode.
Oh, okay. Which I always do for my Switch games, so...
Yeah, I mean, the game was originally released on DS. There was a mobile tablet version, which is apparently a pretty good conversion of the game. And then they made the Switch version.
I heard the fun part about that game is that you have the two screens from the DS that you actually battle on, and they actually make good use of that in the game, and you don't have that in the, in the mobile and the Switch version, so it loses a bit of its novelty. So
yeah, and I mean, God damn it! I saw a conversation the other day on Twitter. It was mostly by people who have much larger platforms than we. One Patrick Boivin of Twitch and Castle Super Beast fame going back and forth with people about, wow, the game is garbage because you play it with touchscreen. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. The first few hours of the game are rough because of the way, because the game plays differently depending on what pin the equipment you get are called pins, and what psychs they give you, how they work. Some of them you have to swipe across the screen. Some you have to draw different patterns. Some you just touch.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, for the first few hours, the game is a fucking learning curve, and to say the gameplay gets better, it does a little bit, but I stayed in the game for the story, so I was really hooked because of that, and that's why I'm like, hey, I want to watch the show, see how they, retell it and how they, reanimate it, because, the last thing that any of these characters were in was Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. Neku was in that game for all of 10 fucking minutes.
All right.
Then we got a fucking tease in Kingdom Hearts 3, and it turned out to be something totally different. God damn it, Nomura.
I still haven't dived into that universe. It's all here. It's all here. I have the collection. I have Kingdom Hearts 3. I haven't dared to enter that void yet. So
I love Kingdom Hearts, and at the same time, it frustrates the fuck out of me.
I'm so scared that Nomura will take Final Fantasy VII exactly to the same place. Like, there's so many signs already in Remake, which I loved to death.
Do you remember when it came out that Nomura said he wanted FF15 to be a musical?
I do not even remember that. Hey, that's amazing. They shouldn't. Considering how the story of 15 turned out, maybe you should have done that, actually. So
I love Nomura because he's got these crazy ideas that I would love to see him execute on, like making FF15 into a musical. But at the same time, he needs more people to rein him in.
That's the problem that comes with success. People just let you do what you want. Look at fucking Kojima. At some point, anyway. But
Kojima turns out to be somehow weirdly prophetic, thanks to Metal Gear Solid 2 and Death Stranding.
Yeah, well, there you go. And also, Death Stranding was a success for him, so
that's true.
He's going to give us more of that, probably. He's working on something new. Anyway, we're, again, tangent time.
Way off topic. Sorry.
It always happens when we talk about fucking games. Anyway, we should do a gaming podcast eventually, otherwise we're never gonna stop this. Make this stop. Anyway.
Well, I mean, anime and video games are so
they
parallel
are heavily connected. But yeah, on that topic, we really haven't gotten a real good game adaptation into an anime yet. Really. So, have we?
I feel like there's something, and I can't pull it out of my head.
I always do too, but then I can't come up with the one that is that. We'll get to it, but first, the character designs they were done by Nomura, right?
Yes.
They're kind of distinctive, and they really come out super well in this show with these super thick outlines and these very opaque color palettes. Like they give the show a super comic booky pop art look, almost like a spray or airbrush tag you would find on the bottom side of a skateboard or something, like we've seen in Skate the Infinity. It's neat. I like the style. Also, it lends itself incredibly well to the mix of 2D and 3D CG animation that is in the show. There was like one short scene in the first episode where I noticed one of the characters suddenly being rendered in CG, but that's it. Aside from that, I wasn't able to spot the difference. Well, the CG on the noise is not great. It's too slow and choppy, but it's still used tremendously well in regards to the camera work. There are a lot of pans, 360-degree tracking shots, zoom in, zoom out. It's wild. Probably best 3D camera work I have seen since Demon Slayer or Beastars. So yeah, I like that a lot. The thing that you are most looking forward to, there's anime retelling the story in this kind of with this kind of presentation is the thing that has me worried. Because, like I said, it's a video game adaptation, which are in general rarely good if I'm not forgetting something. But more than that, it's the adaptation of an JRPG. And the adaptations for those usually lose a lot of connective tissue in the form of character development scenes that make the game so strong, and the anime adaptations rush through the plot instead. And the first episode of this gives me the vibe that might happen here as well.
Yeah, I mean, since you don't know much about the game and not giving too much away, part of the story revolves around the Reapers game.
Please repronounce that.
Yes, I was about to say. Part of the story revolves around the Reapers game.
Dude, I'm gonna leave this in. It's just
fuck. God damn it. Reaper. The Reapers game. Listen, right. I've watched enough of Your Grammar Sucks to know the difference between rap and another word that I'm not going to say.
Well, I'm glad about that then.
But yes, the Reapers game runs in cycles of 7 days, and we kind of go through the first 3 days real quick in the first episode. But I feel like, because I just watched the second episode maybe not more than 2 hours ago. They spent a bit more time on the following 2 days after that. So I feel like they were kind of trying to get to the parts that matter the most in the story. So I think it'll probably be fine.
Well, I hope so, because the first episode really gave me a feeling that they're just gonna skip over a bunch of shit to just get all of the plot done in, I don't know, 12 or 13 episodes, or how much they're planning to do. Like, our mains and the plot setup of the Reaper game are introduced super fast. We barely learn anything about our core set of characters. Then we are already introduced to the Reapers. Then Nico turns on Shiki. Then he gets pulled out of his funk by the bartender guy. Then he and Shiki fight that boss and meet the band members of 777 or whatever that band is called. Then they go to the concert hall and have a bonding moment during the fight. Then we learn that 777 are Reapers as well. Beat and Rhyme are thrown into the mix twice as well, out of nowhere. You could have turned that easily at least into 3 or 4 episodes, all of that shit that is happening there. So I didn't know why they rushed through it that much. It was a bit, it was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I won't deny you that.
Of course, this might all be, like you said, to get to the good parts and then, stretch that out a bit. And also to make the first episode as action-packed as possible. But you could have paced out the fights as well. Like, make each fight a little bit bigger. Make it, one fight per episode. And the rest character moments, which I assume are in the game in that point. And have the character, that they, in the game, the characters converse a bit more. Talk a bit more about stuff. And have, a bit more bonding moments or whatever. I mean, I haven't played it, like I said. But that's just from watching the anime, it felt like, okay, there is probably more stuff, more connective tissue in the game that is missing here. Because I feel like we're jumping from plot point to plot point to plot point to plot point. And there's not much that is really leading us there, organically. And yeah, so that put me a bit off. I'll see how it, how it changes, if it changes in the coming 1 or 2 episodes.
Fair enough.
And I'm willing to give it a chance. It looks really good. So there's that. All right. What is your next maybe, John?
Battle Athletes Victory Restart. Aspiring athletes from around the galaxy gather to compete in a tournament where the winner will be crowned the Cosmic Beauty. What begins as rivalry grows into friendship among the athletes, including a lunar refugee and her kangaroo companion, the daughter of an arms-dealing CEO, a mysterious loner, and Earth's representative, a humble potato farmer named Kanata Akehoshi.
All right.
So this is a reboot of an old manga that had an anime adaptation way back in the day. And it was something I was curious about way back when. If it was like, maybe someday I'll check it out, and I never did. So here we are. And boy, it doesn't seem like the production values are there for something that's supposed to be about intergalactic sports. That takes place, by the way, in the future year of 5100.
Wow. Okay, that is a future year.
Yes. It just sort of seems like, oh yeah, aliens and space travel and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, that's normal. Don't worry about it. But I guess 3,000 years into the future, it would be. So, all right, fine. Sure.
I can only hope.
Yes. I'm curious about this simply because, it's an old property brought back to life that I always kind of had my eye on, kind of like when we were talking about Shaman King earlier.
And same as Shaman King, the production values leave something to be desired.
Man, what is up with that?
I don't know. Maybe you can't promote the manga anymore, so it doesn't have as high of a budget. So, I mean, it was Battle Athletes even based on a manga?
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. Maybe it's that, but it's just for the fans or something. But then again, I don't know. Ushio and Tora the manga was done, and that got a remake in anime form, and that was fucking great. Like Mappa gave their all for that shit, and both seasons fucking rock. I love that show, so it can happen. I don't know why it doesn't for these two shows, which seem to be a bit of a bigger thing, at least at some point. Like Shaman King was pretty well known and big at some point, and Battle Athletes, at least I've heard of several times. So
yeah, because I mean, there was an old OVA, then a TV series that was a retelling. Then there was I think I'm mixing. I think there was a manga somewhere in there too. Then there was the manga version of the show that's airing now that already ended, and now they're adapting it into an anime, and fuck. There's a lot. It's a lot. Maybe it'll be cool. I don't know. I want to see if it turns out to be something.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, it's good giving these shows a chance, and if there's someone with passion for the old material in there on the production side of things, you usually notice that at some point. It's like saying, okay, that someone knows what they're doing. Also, you could count JoJo's into that. I mean, JoJo's had adaptations before of the manga material.
That's true.
And now we're getting all the TV shows, and you really know that the people responsible and David Productions for these shows really like the source material and really know what they're doing. And so that can happen. So maybe that will happen for this show as well.
Like, I mean, the old JoJo's, and we talked about this, but, the old JoJo's OVAs, it was a neat curiosity, but David Production definitely looked at the manga and was like, all right, we can do this. We can do this more accurately, and we can do it better. How can we capture the style? How can we capture the humor, the quirkiness, just the inherent weirdness of JoJo's and what makes it so awesome, and then put that into anime form and improve on it. And yeah, they did with every fucking season so far. So yeah, and I like the old OVAs of JoJo's. It's just like they're so much more straightforward. They are nothing like the manga. All the weirdness is kind of gone from it, except for the stand heroes and everything being inherently weird. But the way they act and everything is just so much more standard shonen-y. Like it's a lot more straight-faced.
Yeah, definitely. Like it feels darker. It feels much more serious and everything. And it's not this weird blend of creepy, funny, weird, action-packed, awesome, ridiculously gay. Like
there's no stupid shit like pantsu maru mieru.
So yeah, it's sometimes good things happen if this material is touched again. So maybe that will happen to Battle Athletes too. Who knows?
True. So what you got next?
Godzilla singular point.
Gojira.
Is that on your list somewhere? Is that a maybe for you, or?
It's not, because once again, fuck Netflix.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I can see why you would do that. So this is again Godzilla show. We've
But I mean,
hmm?
it's also a case of cutting off my nose to spite my face
I'm
because
not familiar with that idiom.
I would love to watch it and I could watch it, but I just don't feel like hunting it down.
Well, I'm not sure you're missing out.
Oh
So,
boy.
well, like I said, I'm not sure. I watched 2 episodes of this, and this is done by Bones and Orange, which on paper is like holy shit.
Like that's the team, that's the crew, that's the tag team you want.
That's the tweet. That's the sale. That's the sales pitch. It's just like Godzilla, Bones, Orange. There you go. You don't need to say anything more. It's like, hey, fucking you have a really popular franchise, that has had a big movie coming out just recently. You have one of the best traditional animation studios out there in existence, and you have the best CG anime studio out there just working together and doing this thing. And you're like, okay, what more do you fucking need? What more do you need? Turns out maybe a good story and enticing characters.
No.
So the show looks really good, as expected. Both the CG and the 2D animation look really good. The show is really talky. I mean, a lot of classic Godzilla stuff is. And it's the first 2 episodes are more like the characters come together, trying to find out the mystery, what is happening, because there's this weird radio signal that they're picking up, and also at the end of the first episode, like a small version of Rodan is attacking, and then at the end of second episode, it's a whole flock of fucking Rodans, like pterodactyl attack, which is cool in itself, but everything in between just is weird. Like, it feels a bit uncoordinated. It feels like it's just stringing you along. And so far after these 2 episodes, I felt something I felt I was missing something to latch onto, which is really Jet Jaguar is in this, like the robot with the weird face that was also in at least one of the Godzilla movies, and he looks really dumb in this because he's like this really old carnival robot with a fat belly with an old man inside who steers it, and he's really small, and there's apparently a fucking skeleton of Godzilla, which is also kind of small, and compared to recent outings of Godzilla, and it's just like everything about this feels a bit like, okay, what are you doing with this? Where's this going? I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I want this. I mean, I probably wanted more than the fucking Polygon Pictures Godzilla movies, which looked like complete garbage. Animation wise, like all Polygon Pictures CG stuff does. That is all of it. They all look like shit. All of them, without an exception.
Isn't it so weird? Polygon Pictures has done a whole bunch of like trailers for like different companies and different things. Like in particular, they cut a whole fucking ton of trailers for like Capcom games, and they're all dope. Yeah. And then you look at the stuff that they produce for themselves, and it's like,
yeah.
What? Why? Huh?
Don't get it. Knights of Sidonia, fucking Blam, or what it was, and though that might be one of the better ones, I'm not sure. But also Godzilla, the 3 movies that were fucking written by Gen Urobuchi. So I definitely wanted to watch those, but then I looked at the fucking presentation, was like, nope, I'm fucking out of here. Fucking dead-faced assholes everywhere, and look like fucking puppets, and Anyway, so this is not that. This is a really good-looking show, and kind of funny characters, but also kind of weird, and like, I don't know, just a generally weird cast of characters, and I don't know where the story is going, and I feel like I should be all over this just from the concept alone, but after 2 episodes, I'm kind of not. So I wonder if I'll be after the 3rd episode, if I'll stick with it. I want to stick with it. Because just because of the production team behind it, or teams. But right now it's like, this is missing something, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how I think about it after I've watched the 3rd episodes. But right now I'm a bit of a mixed feeling about this one. So yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know. If I finish it, I probably finish it before you. So there you go. What is your next, maybe, John?
My next is Vivy, Fluorite Eyes Song.
Yes, that's also one of mine.
Yes. Speaking of beautiful shows,
Oh, holy shit.
so Nealand, an AI complex theme park where dreams, hopes, and science intermingle. Created as the first ever autonomous humanoid AI, Vivy acts as a cast for the establishment. Words, sorry. To fulfill her mission of making everyone happy through song, she continues to take the stage and perform with all her heart. However, the theme park was lacking in popularity. One day, an AI named Matsumoto appears before Vivy and explains that he has traveled from 100 years in the future with the mission to correct history with Vivy to help prevent the war between AI and humanity that is set to take place. It's a story of AI destroying AI and the Diva Vivy's 100-year journey begins. So, boy, this show immediately starts in a dark place with
No. Holy shit, no kidding.
With AI everywhere just sort of deciding, hey, we don't need humanity anymore, and just everybody's getting murdered everywhere, and it's a bad time.
I don't know if that really is that, because the way they're acting, it's kind of feels like, yeah, what is actually happening to the AI? What is the process? What is the thing that makes them go bad? They really haven't got into that.
Well, they get into one aspect of it with this
one aspect, yeah.
AI naming law that this this legislator is trying to pass, and he gets in the bad future, less good future. He gets killed, and the law gets passed in his name, and it sets off this big ass chain of events that causes the robot resurrection. So that is like just one step of trying to prevent this global crisis that threatens all of humanity. It's this weird sort of story of trying to keep the peace by taking away your rights.
Yeah, it's just the concept in itself is really weird, and but I like it. I think like the whole setup is very interesting. You know, with Matsumoto traveling back from the future. Also, I'm kind of getting a bit of QB vibes from him in a way, but also not. It's an interesting character. And then, you know, it's about Vivy changing the future where she's the only AI from that time that is still alive, apparently, but set into stasis in a museum. So that's why they picked her. And yeah, she is autonomous, the first autonomous AI, like you said, and I think this story is probably going to be about coming into her own and then also changing the future. But also, what does it mean to change the future? What are you? Is it actually a good thing to take these rights away from the AIs? What actually made them go bad, aside from them suddenly having an identity, suddenly being able to think for themselves? Like, what made them turn actually on the humans? Was it just a servitude that they suffered, but or something else? You know, it will be interesting to see what actually led to that, because it seems more like they were manipulated in a way. You know, with the chips going bad and the way they behave, some of them seem more like in a daze and saying like, "Can I help you? Can I help you?" and then killing the people. It didn't feel like they were actually doing that because out of, I don't know, a feeling of vengeance or anything. So that has not been made clear yet, and I wonder where it's going to go in that regard.
They make it a point to explain that every AI has its one singular mission.
Yes, because they can't handle multiple ones. Like that's
right.
The whole setup. They try to give AIs the ability to choose between what they want to do, and that didn't work out. Like the system of the AIs collapsed or something. They couldn't handle that free choice in a way. So they all gave them one single goal that they have to achieve and that they have to strive for throughout the entire life. And for Vivy, that's making the people in the park happy through singing and what was it? Reach their heart or something? Sing to her heart's content or something. They actually
Something
put that into words at some point. Sing with all her heart or something like that. Right. That's the yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, even in she is constantly, or not constantly, she frequently is voicing her concern about that. Especially in like the first episode when she's like, "Yeah, I'm not built for combat, though."
She's pretty good at it, though, considering all that.
And then in the third episode, when she's, without getting into any spoilers or anything, she's
yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, part of that deals with this hotel that's in orbit above the Earth, and Matsumoto even says to her, "Well, since part of your mission is to help people be happy and make them smile, working, this what is essentially this customer service gig kind of falls in the same bracket, so you should be fine. Don't worry about it." Yeah,
but there's also just, I wonder, we know she got to live, or the actual uprising of the AI is going to happen in 100 years. So are we actually gonna have her spend 100 years? Like, are we going to see her journey of 100 years? Actually, we pick specific points in time, and we see some characters maybe get older and stick around, and then revisiting them when they're much later stage in their life and stuff like that. Is it going to happen like that, or is it just going to be, hey, we're going to change some initial things and then change, and then stuff much further in the future is going to change? It's interesting.
I mean, in the third episode, they did specify that it was a set amount of time since the first couple episodes.
Okay.
So.
And we have like this weird jump forward at the end of the second episode where just from one scene to another where they talk to each other and shake hands, like she and Matsumoto, and then something happens in between those two scenes that we really didn't see. And then we see the results from that, which is them fighting each other. And then something really bad happens, which Vivy tried to prevent, but Matsumoto wouldn't let her because that would change the future in a way that is not part of their goal. And
I thought you said it was something like the result of changing this is inconsequential and there's no need for you to worry about it.
Exactly. He was like, that's not our, at least I understood it like, hey, that's not our main goal. We shouldn't waste any resources on that. So you are not allowed to actually interfere with that. It might change things or it might raise attention or of what we are doing right here. And we can't have that. Also, fuck him for that,
Yeah.
She's kind of being a very cold, facts-driven asshole right there, and doesn't really make him a sympathetic character. So I wonder where they'll go with that. But yeah, it's an interesting show. I like the high sci-fi concept. I always dig time travel and shit like that, and AI trying to become human and everything is always an interesting concept. So I'm this is pretty high on my maybe list. If there is not something happening in the next two episodes or something that turns me off completely, I'm probably going to keep watching this because, like you said, it looks really good. The story setup is really interesting. I want to see how they do that 100-year journey thing with Vivy or Diva or whatever you want to call her. And I want to see where it goes. It looks really interesting.
Indeed. Yeah. So what you got next?
My next maybe is Tokyo Revengers.
Really? You actually checked that out?
I checked that out. I'm surprised myself. And for the first 10 minutes, I was like, holy fucking shit, this is probably super bad. The summary sounded super bad because it sounded like this ultra wish fulfillment hyper garbage. So basically an isekai without being an isekai. So there's a guy, I actually didn't write out his name. Write down his name in this, which sometimes happened in a sneak peek, but whatever. Who has a super shitty life, lives in a small flat and everything, has a kind of shitty job and stuff, and yeah. So he learns that Tachibana, the only girlfriend he ever had in middle school, dies at the hand of a famous Tokyo gang. Her brother as well. And right after that, our main character gets pushed in front of a train, and his life flashes before his eyes. he relives one of the worst days in his life in middle school in 2005, where he and his delinquent friends got beaten up by the same gang that will eventually kill his then girlfriend in 12 years. So, full of regrets, he visits her one last time and then by chance runs into her brother Naoto, saves him from some punks by punching the shit out of them, and tells him to always protect his sister, or he and his sister will die on a specific day in 12 years. Our main character then wakes up in a hospital bed in 2017 and is greeted by Naoto. Turns out, our hero I guess, actually traveled through time and changed the past. The problem is, it wasn't enough. His girlfriend is still dead. She still died. So he and her brother join forces to change the past once more and try to keep her alive. So yeah, this is the delinquent version of Erased, obviously. I don't expect it to be nearly as good. The writing sure doesn't feel up to par, but the premise in itself is fun, and I like that the show takes a hard dunk on nostalgia at certain points, where it's like, hey, middle school, high school, that was my peak life, everything went to shit after that, and then he travels back in time, sees himself in the mirror, in the delinquent look, and was like, holy shit, I looked so fucking lame. And it's like, oh, that's nice. It's not like this what you usually get in these kind of shows where it's like, oh, this was the shit. This was where my life was fucking perfect and everything after, with people who couldn't grasp with realities of, adulthood and everything and want to go back to being a kid. And the show might still turn into that, but it feels more like this is a show about facing past regrets and, coming into your own, kind of coming of age story in a way, but, going back and changing some of the things you would have done differently if you could, but, not trying to just relive the greatest time of your life and then trying to make that extend into your future life, but actually trying to become the character you wanted to become and weren't able to. So from the summary alone, it didn't sound too promising. And like I said, the writing is a bit weird, and also delinquents and gangs, and we'll see how that turns out. But the characters are pretty fun. The main character is pretty cool, quote unquote. He's a shitbag in a way, and he's very pathetic in the beginning, but that's kind of the point. And he realizes that, and his character moments are pretty damn good actually. And the stuff with his girlfriend, and when he realizes that he hasn't talked about to her because he kind of repressed his memories and everything because he was so disappointed with himself and how things turned out with him, that he didn't really want to connect to his past and everything and wanted to just press that away. And that felt kind of substantial and, I don't know, hit kind of home for me in a certain way. So I was like, hey, this has some surprising neat character bits in it for how it looks, for what it does and everything, and the whole setup. So I might actually stick with this. This was weirdly enticing at a certain point. Like I said, the first 10 minutes were kind of like, oh god, what is this? And then after a while, it became kind of neat. So I was like, hey, okay, I'm going to give this at least 2 more episodes or something and see where it goes, because this right now is more than I actually expected from this show. So I'm kind of hopeful. We'll see. This might still turn to complete dog shit, but I am pleasantly surprised by this show for now.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Actually is. Yes. All right, John, you're next maybe.
To Your Eternity.
Yes, that's also on my list. As by your recommendation.
Yes. So, an omnipotent narrator casts an orb of light to Earth, watching as this entity copies the shape of a rock, and then many years later mimics the moss on a rock. When a wolf dies beside the moss, it evolves, taking on the creature's shape and gaining movement for the first time. As the wolf, the orb observes the dead wolf's owner, a young man who lives alone in a frozen tundra, and accompanies him on his journey to reunite with the rest of his townspeople, who crossed the icy wasteland years before in search of a more beautiful country. The time the orb spends with the boy leaves a mark on the entity as it observes, mimics, and bonds with the boy and the other creatures it eventually comes across, all while transcending death and living for time immemorial. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So this is the first I'd heard of this this show, because it was, I guess, based off a manga of the same name. Boy, that first episode hit. It seems to be this story about how, I guess, kind of how death gives life meaning. At
least in the first episode. I don't know if that is all it's gonna do with the coming episodes. I haven't seen the second one yet. Yeah. But I mean, that's not out. But it reminded me a lot of Lost Odyssey or Phoenix, where you see different aspects of humanity through the eyes of someone who lives through different stages of human history. And that's probably going to happen with this, because our main character is like kind of maybe an immortal being, and probably gonna just see different vistas and meet a lot of different people and meet a lot of different cultures and everything. And then the show kind of comments on that probably, and how they treat certain things. And the episode preview for the second episode makes me believe that that is the case for this show as well. And yeah, the question is, for me, if this will just be tragedy porn, or if it will have something interesting to say along the way, because it could go either way.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm not quite sure how it's gonna play out either, but boy, that first episode got me fucking pretty good.
It was really good and heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The music was really beautiful, and it's a good-looking show. I think Brain Space is doing it. And it's a lot. And the irony in the way, how the story of that one character wraps up, considering how it started and everything. And it's it's sad, and it's it's a sad story. I wonder if it will stay as sad. It might. The question is what the show's going to do with that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I don't know if I can watch this in another show that we're both definitely watching at the same time.
No kidding. Yeah, most definitely. I want to give it a chance. I want to watch like one or two more episodes, because, like I said, it's a good-looking show. The story is told very well. It seems to be like one of these quick glances at human nature and all that entails. The good stuff, the bad stuff, and what an outsider who learns about this from moment to moment would experience this. And then the show commenting on that, like looking at humanity from the outside, from a kind of objective perspective, which is not possible because the show is made by human beings, so I assume. But it's still much interesting. Like Phoenix, the Osamu Tezuka show was really good in that regard, and I liked Lost Odyssey too, where you experience a lot of different stories about death and everything, and enduring with Kaim, our main character, and his. I think it's even longer for those. It's like 1,000 years or something, right? Ish. I mean, that's how long this character could last as well. We don't know. So.
I mean, he's just an orb cast out into the world by presumably
God or some kind of alien. I don't know, but yeah, it looks like God. Definitely. Yeah, interesting. It's an interesting setup, and we'll see what they do if the character is gonna turn into more than an observer. I mean, now he's human, so we'll see what that if that changes anything. But yeah, looking forward to the second episode, and we'll see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. So, what you got next?
I'm done with my babies. Do you have one more, or are we ready to move on to the keepers?
I mean, my last maybe is probably going to be a keeper for you, so we can move over.
All right. Then my first keeper is SSSS.Dynazenon, which is the spiritual successor to SSSS Gridman, which we have reviewed in our episode True Grid. And it's definitely made by the same people. It really looks, just in terms of everything, production values, atmosphere, it feels like, hey, Gridman is over, and now Dynazenon, next thing.
Yo, where are the thighs at, though?
That's true. That might still happen. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Missing those styles as well. True, but it's super pretty. The same incredible expressive eyes on the characters. With these weird color shapes and everything. And yeah, we got a cool main character like Yogomi. We have female character with a lot of baggage called Yume. Yogomi also has baggage. All the characters here have baggage, probably. That's how it was in Gridman in a way. But even more so apparently in this one. We have a kaiju user called Gauma who's, is the instigator of all the shit that is happening and getting everyone into the giant-ass robot. But it seems to be a bit more broad in this. It's not much of a... I mean, there's a bit of mystery in here, what actually happened, but it's also, I don't know, it feels partially more goofy, I guess, and I like it. I really like it a lot. I like the first 2 episodes of Dynazenon. It made me really happy, and the music that plays when Dynazenon assumes his Dynarex form is probably the OP, done by this, I think, yeah, it was the OP. Yeah, pretty sure, of course, it was in the 2nd episode. But done by the same group as the as the Gridman OP, and it hits just right. And I think Yugomi's VA is the one that is voicing Legacy in Beastars. Pretty sure, maybe. I'm not sure, but I think so.
I thought it was the same voice actor as Yuji.
Really? Okay, maybe I'm mistaken there, but there's so many cool flourishes again, and I want to see where all of this goes. And Gauma is a fantastic, kind of also main character that with a really strong sense of justice and everything, and but not being an asshole. And there are already these kind of cool things in this where where I have to laugh out loud when we see the first battle from Yomogi's perspective in the 2nd episode, he hears the main theme of the show in a muted version.
Yes.
Does that mean the music is actually playing in the universe in the show when they change to the Dynarex form? That is hilarious to me.
That has to be the case, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's fucking fantastic. I never considered that would be happening, but of course it makes total sense that would happen in the Tokusatsu show. It's it's fucking great.
I mean, does that mean every time the Power Rangers got into the Megazord, they could hear go go go?
Yes, absolutely.
In the background.
Yes, I hope so. God, that makes all of the show so much better if you actually retcon that. I fucking love it. And Dynazenon has a cool ass retro control board, like an NES Advantage or something. It looks like that. And there's already so much cool shit in this. And fucking kaiju eugenesis. Fucking what? It's amazing. Oh,
weird.
It's super weird. It's a tokusatsu-ass tokusatsu show, and it's that Trigger fucking leaning into this shit, and it feels like there's so much love for the material in this, and that's what it was in what happened in Gridman. There were diehard fans definitely at the helm there. You could tell that, and I watched the guy analyze the shit out of that show, and who was really well versed in all the Ultra series stuff. And there were so many love letters in that show, and I assume Dynazenon is the same because it feels like it. It feels like there's so much love put into the show, and that always manages to ring true and to ooze out of the screen. And yeah, I like it. I really like those first 2 episodes, and I want to keep going.
I mean, hell, even on the show's logo, you have the name Tsuburaya, which was one of the companies that did special effects for the old Ultraman shows. So there you go.
Also, yeah, now it says on the logo Gridman Universe. So that makes me think, hey, we might even get more shows in that universe now. We might cross over into the actual Ultra series and everything. So who knows what will happen next? And sure, gimme.
Go for it.
Yes, absolutely go for it. I loved Gridman, the anime, new anime, and I like this a lot, and I hope it will stay as good as it was in its first 2 episodes. And yeah, Dynazenon, go, fucking great ass tokusatsu bullshit. Yeah, I'm gonna keep watching, definitely.
It's good, solid fun. I'm looking forward to more of it.
All right. then we're on the same page here. John, what is your next maybe slash keeper?
My final maybe is definitely a keeper for you, I'm sure. It's My Hero Academia. I felt, and I call it a maybe because I was so after the end of season 4 that I was just like, and immediately in the opening sequence for this new season, it's like, here's like 20 characters that you've maybe kind of seen for like 5 seconds before, because I realized after the fact saying to you that it was like the students of class 1B, but number one, we haven't seen most of them up to that point. Do you even remember? Event.
Yeah, but that's it, kind of.
Like, do you remember their names? Will you remember their names? Are they important to Class 1A in the grand scheme of things? Probably not, but they're gonna sure as fuck throw them in our face now, and it's like, I just want Class 1A.
That's true. I agree with you. On the other hand, we have had at least 1 or 2 characters from 1B that, were recurring. Not the most enticing characters, but some of Tetsu was always hanging around with Kirishima, so that's okay. And also, the asshole whose name I always forget, who is like so super obsessed with showing up 1A for some reason. He is like this hyper inferiority conflict. Yeah, he's an asshole. But it's also funny when he gets like his comeuppance, because even his classmates hate him to death. He's like Class 1B's version of Grape Guy from
Mineta.
From Mineta, right? So he's like the
a little
asshole.
bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each class needs one of those. The black sheep. So that's fine, and I find it hilarious how fucking insane he gets when it comes to how obsessed he is with showing up 1A. And now we get one of the characters who fought Midoriya who fought Deku in the sports event, trying to switch to the hero course, which I thought was an interesting concept, because he was just in a non-superpowered course. I don't know if he was trying to do support or just in general, and now he's trying to actually switch to the hero course and make his powers work as a hero character and everything. And I thought that was interesting, just trying to do that. But like you said, how much are they going to actually do with that? I don't know.
I mean, seeing Shinso there again, being like, oh, we have a special guest from Class 1C, and it's like, oh, I remember that guy because he left an impression on me, and he was interesting when we first met him, and it's like, okay, cool to see him again. And then, on the periphery of that, we have Endeavor recovering from his clash with the super juiced up Nomu.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to reconnect with his family, and oh boy, his 2 sons are not having it, and I don't blame them. Do you?
No, I no, fucking no way. But it's, that's the thing actually that I wanted from the show. It's like, okay, I was worried when they switched over to Endeavor's side of things at the end of season 4, and it was like, okay, are they gonna give him this like super easy redemption arc in a way? He's gonna be the hero now that All Might stepped down, so he's gonna be the new number 1. He has to figure out what that actually means. He needs to find his own way. But are they, he fights his thing against the Nomu, and people accept him now, and that's it, and now his family has to take him back, and all is fine and good? No, it's actually not. That's, he tries to get back into his family, but neither Natsu nor Shoto are willing to forgive him for now. At least Shoto is willing to watch Endeavor make an effort and judge him accordingly. It's more than what Endeavor could ask for, honestly. I think we both agree on that. But I like that the series doesn't go from worst dad of all time to loving family in the blink of an eye. Because
that would be such a weird, I can't say the word I want. It'd be such a weird pivot.
Yeah.
It would be like, what? It would be so dissonant with with everything that we've come to know him in his relationship to his family for. Like, oh, suddenly I'm a good guy.
Yeah. And that's, okay. I'm so glad that is not what is happening. He is trying. He is determined to atone for the horrible things he did to his family. He has recognized that he has done horrible shit in his obsession with becoming like All Might, with becoming the best there is, and that was the worst thing that he could have done. I think he has realized that now. The thing he doesn't know yet is how to make up for that shit. And he's trying to figure that out. And he accepts that people maybe won't give him the chance to do that. And I like that. I think that is pretty cool. And I'm actually happy the show is going there. And I hope it will spend some actual time on that, besides all the plot development stuff, which it seems we will get a lot of in this, because Deku connects to the previous bearers of One for All and witnesses part of the origin of the legacy of One for All, of All for One and his brother. It's fun that the fact that All for One's worldview is based on a comic book he read as a kid. It's very corny, but very fitting in a way. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts at the beginning of the season, and it feels like the story is moving a bit more than it did in season 4.
Yeah,
and I like that. And I feel like, okay, we may be gonna get somewhere in this season that we didn't get to in season 4.
Yeah, because we also have this other plot on the side where we think Hawks may or may not be in league with the villains, but apparently he's just trying to get in with them so he can find out what's good. Yeah,
exactly. He's trying to basically go undercover and become a member of the league so he can get inside intel. And yeah, that's also a pretty cool idea. Puts actually a new interesting character that we got to learn about into peril immediately. And if they spend enough time on him, he could become a very valuable member. I really like his connection to Endeavor. In the first season we were still, okay, why is he trying to team up with him? And in this season, immediately we get like, okay, he was also always a fan of Endeavor, apparently, even as a kid when, wasn't really clear that he wanted to become a hero or anything. And I like these small touches in the show that they do. So I like what I've seen so far of season 5. I'm really surprised how much and where they're actually going. I hope they don't drag out that fucking training fight with 1B too much and actually go to the more interesting stuff and, do a lot more with Endeavor and, develop his characters and trying to really make this redemption arc long and arduous and a real trial for him. Not an easy conversion and Shoto forgiving him and Natsu forgiving him. The sister already is trying because she just wants to have a happy family, and the mother kinda is too, but the two sons, they're just not, especially one of them is not fucking willing to go there yet. And there's also this thing, they had one more brother and we don't really know what happened to him. Maybe he died, I don't know. But they had a big brother, and we'll see, maybe learn what happened there and everything. So, yeah, right now, besides all the Deku stuff and, the connection to One for All and all that shit, Todoroki's story is the most interesting with Endeavor and everything. So I really hope they put some time into that and develop that properly instead of, like you said, introducing a bunch of new characters that we don't care about maybe, or that could time that just couldn't be spent elsewhere, which was a feeling we sometimes got in season 4. Not all the time, but definitely sometimes.
Yeah, because I looked at that opening sequence and I said to you, I feel tired just looking at that. I just totally feel fucking tired.
The question is, how much is that of that is actually happening? Are those maybe some new villains or something that are on the side, which is fine, right? You can always introduce new villains. My problem with season 4 was that they also introduced so many new heroes and stuff like that, and didn't spend enough time on the core crew.
Hey, what happened to Lock Rock, though? Oh, who cares? Okay.
Nobody gives a shit, right? I mean, Horikoshi is trying to create this giant-ass universe, and in your normal comic book, that makes fucking sense, because a lot of these characters spin out, they have their own shit, have their own series and stuff like that, so you can tell enough stories with them. That's probably not going to happen with this. I mean, there is a side story for My Hero Academia called Vigilantes, I think, or something like that. But that's not drawn or scripted by Horikoshi, if I'm not mistaken. And so I don't know how heavy it is even related to the main show, to the main series. And yeah, I don't know, but I'm still banking on the main plot around Deku and All Might and all that stuff is really good. And, all the stuff they're doing with Todoroki now seems to be rather interesting character-wise. So yeah, I'm looking forward to at least those parts and probably some cool battles, let's be honest, that are going to happen in the season. And, you're right. This is always, unless something really horrible happens, going to be one of my keepers, because this is, for me, peak shonen, and I love shonen, and I love comic books, I love superheroes, so this show was made for me. That's just the way it is. So even if it gets a bit more mediocre, and I rewatched all of season 4 with a friend of mine, and in retrospect, I liked it much more than I did on the first watch, because I noticed some stuff that I didn't notice before, and some character bits that I was like, oh, right, that was pretty damn cool. Hey, I like Gentle and his sidekick a lot, even more than I did in the first season. So I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I liked season 4 more than I actually did it on its first viewing. So that's also fine.
I like this series. I just wanted to find some focus.
That's true. Absolutely. The same for me. I have to agree with you. I really wanted to focus on certain things and certain characters, and we need to fucking expand on amazing characters like Uraraka and or Uraviti if you want, and Sue and characters like those. I wanna hear their background stories. I mean, they probably don't have that much because they're still kids, but tell me something about their parents. Tell me something about their siblings, whatever, and just do something interesting with those characters, which might happen, might not happen. I don't know if Horikoshi might be playing the long game, and he's like, oh, each of these characters is eventually gonna have a big character arc in the story. But maybe not, and we don't know. And so far, only three of them. Oh, wait, maybe 4. Let's say 4. Let's say Deku, let's say Bakugo, Todoroki, and Ida. Those 4 got some pretty damn good character bits story in the previous season, and character stories and background arcs and everything. With Ida's brother and Stain. So yeah, that was pretty damn good. So there's Bakugo's whole development is fucking magic to me. Like the character that I fucking distasted in the first season, I hated the most, is now one of my favorite characters in the show and one of my favorite shonen characters of all time. So that alone. For that alone, I will always hold Horikoshi in high regards, because he managed to completely turn me around on one of the characters, because that character is so well developed. So yeah,
I mean, I know the manga is. I think it's currently on break because Horikoshi is sick. But hopefully it's not with the that thing that's been going around. I don't know. I mean, we've said it before, but the YouTube algorithm doesn't like people to say it.
Yeah. Oof. God. I mean, that would suck either way, but also. Just in general, when it happens to people that produce stuff you really like, it's like, oh god, oh no, this affects me now. Besides of this shit affecting me on a daily basis, why do I need it in my fucking escapism now? I wish him all the best, good recovery, whatever it is that he is currently recovering from, and take all the time you need, Horikoshi, and. We will wait for you. At least I will. I don't know if John will, but we're definitely gonna talk about My Hero Academia season 5 when it has wrapped up, because I'm definitely gonna finish this season and the next and the next and the next. pretty damn sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, as long it doesn't fucking change hands to Studio Dean, like fucking. Like fucking Deadly Seven Sins did. Yeah, then I'll probably jump Chip too.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll finish watching this season. Will I watch beyond that? That will depend on how I feel at the end of this season.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right.
What's your next keeper?
Do you have 2 more or 1 more?
2 more.
Then I think you need to do the next keeper, because I think my last keeper is the same for both of us.
Yes. So, my next keeper, we alluded to it before, is Zombieland Saga. Revenge. Channel my best Vincent Price. Sorry. The girls of Franshushu are back for more, and after playing a massive blowout of a performance at a giant venue, The show turns out to be a gigantic failure with record low attendance.
Which we barely see anything of, which really weirded me out. It's like, why is that not the first episode of the season? Like, that entire thing.
I mean, it should be.
Yes.
But I think the fact that we see the girls doing odd jobs after the fact kind of leads into them setting up, oh, by the way, our last show was a super mega flop, and now we owe huge buku bucks.
But it still feels like a missed opportunity. Yes, we see the fallout from that, but it would have been such an emotional fucking cliffhanger, fucking banger opening for this season, where it's like, hey, we had a very successful concert at the end of the last season, and now we're gonna have all our fans here, and we're gonna play in this big venue, and then no one is fucking coming. Like, you expect this to be just like a fine, successful opening, and what's next for Front Choo Choo, and then whoop, nobody is listening to them and nobody cares. And it's like, what the fuck? And then, you know, time skip, and then we see everyone doing the odd jobs in the second episode, and fucking their manager is getting drunk in a bar. And I feel like they should have done it that way. I was kind of miffed that is how they decided to do it.
I mean, yeah, I get that, but you know, it might have also come down to, we have to do this in so many episodes, sort of thing.
Absolutely, that's probably the reason why, and I understand that decision. Again, I think the show would have profited from not doing it this way, but that's my opinion. So whatever, I might be wrong.
Yes, as we said, Sakura and the other zombie girls need to take on odd jobs to help pay off the debt they owe. And when the girls decide they want to try their luck at one final show, back where it all began, they employ their manager Tatsumi to support them, but he's fallen into a heck of a slump himself. He's so drunk. He's so goddamn drunk. Man.
He's Mamoru Miyano drunk.
Yes.
That is even more drunk than normal person get drunk.
What's the drunkest person you've ever seen or you can imagine? Okay, take that and go 3 steps further.
Also high on himself, also insane. There's a lot of things playing into his performance there, but it's great.
I love Mamoru Miyano. He just gets so into everything.
Yes.
So, can Franshushu restore their former greatness and become rising stars once again? Even if this is their lowest point. Even if they're starting over from zero. It's just part of their saga. And it's time for their revenge. Hey, somebody hire me to write your ad copy, because nobody else wrote a synopsis for this season.
What? Okay, interesting.
But it's been a minute since the first season, so when they finally announced it was coming back, I was just like, all right, let's go, let's do this. So I was ready for more of it, and boy, I don't know if you've watched the second episode yet.
No, I did not. I only watched the first one. This
show goes from goofy to just punching you in the gut on a dime. Like, the end of that second episode was like, oh man, it was this story about Saki and this DJ that she's a big fan of, and it goes places.
Okay, that's good to hear, because I think the show just caught me not on a bad day, but in a really wrong place in a way, I would say. Like, the first episode, like I said, I had, my troubles with them not actually covering the downfall in a way. Like, after you put them up on that hill, that pedestal, you get this rise, to fame them story in the first season, and then you drop them to the fucking bottom, and we don't actually see that drop. That kind of bugged me. And then from there, it's that they're pulling themselves back up, and the entire first episode is about that, and they are not really successful with that. Like, they play at the end of the first episode, they play at Giles again, the venue that actually had them have their first big success, which was like this heavy metal bar kinda, and then they do like this impromptu headbanging super hyper metal growl hymn with extreme headbanging and everything. Like, that's the thing that sways the audience at Giles for the first time. And they subverted expectations of the audience in the show and in front of the screen, which would be me, because I expected this. Okay, is this gonna be an idol show with zombies? And do they gonna have generic idol songs? No, this is crazy bullshit. Here, it's your fucking zombies who do the headbanging, and someone is actually losing her head, and there's metal, and in the next episode there's fucking rap battle and shit, and that was cool, and that's what made me latch on to the first season. But then in the course of the season, we switch over to your standard idol group songs with horribly stiff CG dancing. And that's what they're doing at Giles in this season. And of course that's not gonna cut it for the audience at Giles, except for their 2 diehard fans. And it's not gonna cut it for me. So I really need to see how the band and the show will reinvent themselves. I wasn't happy where the show went with its songs and performances in the latter half of the season, because it promised something out of the ordinary in the beginning, and we didn't really get that after a while anymore, at least when it came to the performances. Don't get me wrong, the song they play at Guys is good, but it's not something we haven't seen before, and it's not something that is like, hey, that different. It's just here the characters are being idols and they're doing an idol group song, which is a fine idol group song, but there are a dime a dozen of those. You got your love lives, you got everything, and just because the characters are zombies doesn't matter in that regard. It doesn't make it fresh or anything. It's just another, hey, here these idols are low point, their club is about to be closed, the group is about to disband, which is, the plot of a lot of these shows, and now they need to find their way out of it again. But they're trying to find right now, at least in the first episode, they're trying to find their way out with their standard songs and their standard stuff they have been doing for the past couple of episodes in the first season. So I was like, okay, I expected something, especially when fucking Kotaro goes there and it's like, encore. It's like, okay, what's the encore gonna be? What's the big song gonna be he tried to write for them? And then it's just another one of those. And I'm like, okay. I don't know if this will be enough. So I wonder if they actually realize that, because at the end of that show, barely anyone is clapping. So nobody got really swayed by that. There were a few ones, but it didn't do it for the audience, and it didn't do it for me. So what will the band do next? Will they find a way to actually, like I said, reinvent themselves? Will become something fresh, something new, and something that not only garners them more fans in the actual show, but also in front of the screen, and like wins me back. I mean, the character stuff will be great anyway, because it was in the first season, and I'm pretty sure it will stay that way in the second season. But I also want to see some fresh performances, and I don't want to have that much reliance on the shitty CG, please. It doesn't look good. It looks so... John, I hate it. I hate the CG in this show.
I know, dude. When they started dancing like that at the end of the first episode, I was like, guys.
It's such a shame. And that's also the shit.
I will tell you this. There's another musical number at the end of the second episode, and it's not CG.
Oh, thank God.
And it's a pretty good song, and it has this you'll understand when and if you watch it. It's a lot more resonant.
And and that might be the goal of the show. Like, it's showing you, hey, okay, we've tried this stuff before and done it again and again and again, and now that isn't working anymore. So we have to try to find, again, we have to do something with our what we do as a group, and we have to try to find a new way for us. So maybe they do that, and maybe we'll see a bit more traditionally animated stuff, which we saw in the beginning of the first season, where it was like, hey, the first thing they did, the first performance they did at Giles, the first performance they did at the rap battle stuff, that was all traditionally animated, and it looked fantastic. So I know MAPPA doesn't have all the budget for this, but they need to do it where it counts. And they didn't do that in the first season. Like the final concert that everything hinges on, right? And it was built up and it was really dramatic and everything. That should have been traditionally animated. That should have looked really good, because it was really a really important performance. And I know I talked about this in the review for the first season, and how disappointed I was that that was CG, because that shit needed to look fantastic. That shit needed to be needed to knock you off your fucking couch with how it looked and how the characters dance and moves and everything. And it was just a stiff CG again. So that show, I don't want that to see that happen again in the second season. It's fine for this if they're like, hey, yeah, this is supposed to look like this right now because we are at our lowest point. But once we have our breakthrough moments again, give us the 2D stuff. And I hope they will do that. And yeah, that's why it was pretty low on my baby list right now, because I had just seen the first episode and was like, oh, this is not what I wanted. I hope this goes somewhere else and it looks a bit better in terms of performances in the future. I don't want to hamper your enthusiasm, not at all. And it's a keeper for you, so you're gonna keep watching it. And I want to watch it as well, definitely, at least for the character stuff, because I like that through and through in the first season, and I'm probably gonna love it in this season as well. It's just like, hey, give me some really cool performances as well. Zombieland Saga. That's what your revenge should look like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with that first episode. I feel like the second episode is a lot stronger for for various reasons.
Okay, really looking forward to it then. And yeah, it's just that's the problem of the concept of the sneak peek. If you've only seen one episode and the rest of the show that is good, that it might turn people off if you like, dunk on the show or stuff like that. But it's a in media res moment review thing, whatever. And yeah, we'll see where it ends up. Do we have anything to say about more to say about Zombieland Saga Revenge for now?
I was gonna yell "Ohio gozaimasu," but no, we're not doing that.
That's fine too.
No, Zombieland Saga. I want to see more of it. I hope there's more good stuff like it was in the second episode, but I guess we'll find out. But I think it's on to the final. And what could the final be?
Yeah, the final could be Fruits Basket Final.
How apropos.
How apropos. Yeah, of course. We are gonna watch the final season of one of our favorite shows in recent years. One of the best dramas we've ever seen. And yeah, it's wrapping up. It's gonna get another, 24 episodes? I don't even know how many episodes are planned for this final season. And this came sooner than I expected. For some reason, I had this pinned to summer or something, or fall, but here it is. I think we're not going to talk about it too much because, if you hadn't seen the first two seasons, and if that's the case, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Then this is gonna give a lot away. A lot. So, I mean, we talked a bit about a heavy spoiler when you talked about the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, but yeah, there is a lot of... It's immediately picking up from where we left off in season 2, and a lot of the things I wanted to see are already happening, where it's like going into the backgrounds of certain characters, of the so far main villain of the show, even more so for a character now maybe turning into the main villain, the instigator of the whole shit also appearing on the stage, like the person responsible for probably most of all the horrible stuff that has happened in the show, and the one that kicked that into motion, also coming into the mix and playing her own game, and all of that is forming around Toru and the others and the Zodiacs and everyone, all the Somas, and yeah, this shit is getting crazy, and it's getting even more and more harrowing by the minute, and I'm all there for it. I'm in it, John.
Yes.
I want to see all of it. I want to consume every new episode of Fruits Basket. Like this, shatter my heart, will you? You fucking evil show. Goddamn, it's really good. I only watched the first 2 episodes so far. I think there are only 2 episodes out for now, but I love them. I think they're great, and they're doing a lot more great character work in good and bad ways, meaning that some good shit is happening and some really bad shit is happening right now. And woof, damn it. I still see so many bad things possibly happening, and I hope all of this will lead to a happy end eventually, but I don't know if it will. So I'm really anxious. I'm really anxious and really scared, but I'm also really happy that the show is continuing because I love it.
I think
think you feel the same.
Is the right word.
Mm-hmm.
Because that first episode, and then that second episode when we got to see another face of a certain character that was like...
Mm-hmm. Not as playful as he made us believe that he was. I mean, we always knew that there was some darker tones to that character because he's also kind of a puppet master in certain ways, but we always felt like there maybe were some good motives behind it, aside from some personal agenda, but now I'm not so sure anymore.
Who knew that one of the people keeping their secrets closest to their chest might have turned out to be actually really bad?
Mm-hmm. Who would have thunk? But yeah, it's riveting. It's riveting storytelling. It's great character work as usual in the show, and yeah, the OP already promises some weird twists, I guess, in certain ways, and I want to see all of it. I'm really looking forward to the rest of Fruits Basket, and I cannot wait to talk about it eventually. And good times? Question mark? I don't know, but it will definitely be exciting. That much is for sure. And John and I are going to watch all of it. And we will discuss it eventually, probably in the reviews we're going to talk about in fall season then.
Yes.
This is probably going to run through spring and summer. And I don't know if it will be 3 cores. I can't imagine it will. It's probably going to be 2 again.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it following a different pattern than the first 2 series.
And I think we already calculated that it would match up with how many chapters were already covered, and that another 2-core season would probably cover the rest just fine, just in terms of how fast it has been progressing for now. So yeah, if they just continue that steady pace, I just hope the last episode or something doesn't feel rushed, and we're gonna get a nice epilogue or something. And I mean, it's not like this is an anime original. Where that is where you are at a higher risk of that happening, but this is based on a manga, long-running manga, and that has been finished for a while. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get an appropriate ending out of this, and I can't wait to see it.
Appropriate. Oh.
Yes. All right. We have to break the curse. Speaking of curses, let's get to our first review from winter 2021. No, well, yeah, that show that we're going to talk about now started in fall 2020, but it wrapped up in winter 2021. So let's talk about that momentarily. Hardship, regret, shame. The negative feelings become curses that lurk in our everyday lives. The cursed creatures run rampant throughout the world, capable of leading people to terrible misfortune and even death. Yuji Itadori is an unnaturally fit high school student living in Sendai with his grandfather. On his deathbed, his grandfather instills 2 powerful messages within Yuji: always help people and die surrounded by people. Shortly after, Yuji is confronted by Megumi Fushiguro, a sorcerer who informs him of a high-grade cursed charm talisman, one finger of a powerful curse being called the Roman Sukuna, at his school that Yuji recently made contact with. Trying to take his grandfather's words to heart, Yuji rushes to help Megumi and save his friends in the occult club from the cursed creatures attracted by the charm. Unable to defeat them due to his lack of magical powers, Yuji swallows the finger to protect his friends, becomes the host of Sukuna, and is able to vanquish the monsters in the school. But unbeknownst to Yuji, due to Sukuna's evil nature, all sorcerers are required to exorcise him, and by extension kill Yuji in the process, immediately. However, despite being possessed, Yuji is still able to retain control over his body for the most part. Seeing this, Satoru Gojo, Megumi's teacher, decides to take him to the Tokyo Prefectural Jujutsu High School to propose a plan to his superiors. Postpone Yuji's death sentence until he consumes all of Sukuna's fingers, allowing them to kill Sukuna once and for all. But Sukuna is lingering in the back of Yuji's head and is just waiting for the right moment to take over and unleash chaos, death, and destruction on Yuji's world and his new friends. So yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen is based on a manga series by Gege Akutami. So far, this is his only project, if I'm not mistaken. The manga started in 2018, counts 15 volumes, and at this point, it's still running. The first season of the anime adaptation we are talking about today ran for 24 episodes and was produced by MAPPA, who I think we have mentioned often enough in our show at this point that we don't need to recount all of their past efforts.
I mean, we talked about them once or twice, I think,
At least. The most important one in that long list, though, is probably the recent first season of the web manhwa adaptation, The God of High School, that we reviewed on our show. Since both shows share at least the director, Sung-Hoo Park, who also directed Garo Vanishing Line and did a bunch of key animation on other projects. And if you've seen those two shows, you know they are filled to the brim with kinetic, well-choreographed action scenes, so you would expect JJK delivering the goods in that regard as well, and boy, does it ever.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's generally a really good-looking show, just in terms of artwork. Like the character designs, the backdrops, the color palette, everything is top-notch. But the real eye-catcher, as in God of High School, are the incredible battles happening throughout the season. The fight scene at the beginning of episode 2 looks already insane, but it gets so much more ridiculous during the show's runtime. Wild martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, weapons, super moves, the latter being sometimes so visually stunning, beautiful, and often very terrifying that I was floored by the creative energy on screen every other episode. There's a lot of CG used, but only for the environment, so the camera can move more freely around the characters, and it's used to great effect. There are a few scenes here and there where this approach doesn't quite work out, especially when it comes to kind of lush vegetation in a forest area or something. But they are far and few between and are never that jarring that it pulled me out of the show. Quite the contrary. Mostly I was amazed by the sheer Sakuga overload blasting into my eyes on a regular basis. As an action show, JJK is hard to match. John, what did you think about the presentation in general?
The show, it just started out the gate. Mm-hmm. Being like, just shut up and
look at this shit.
And it never really lets up. In fact, I feel like it just got crazier and crazier as it went in with the animation, because there are some fights that
yeah, namely I think we got like 3 absolute eye-catcher fights here. I think at the end of the first big arc, the middle point of the show, that's one of the important ones. Then we have one in the next arc, which is like this kind of exam competition thing right at the end that is ridiculous, with nice tag team action. And again, tag team action in the final fight of the show, which is also fantastic, which I will get to due to specific reasons. But yeah, it gets crazier and crazier, and I was so fucking amazed by what the crew did with the fight scenes and how creative it got, in terms of choreography and where those battles happened and what they did with their moves and everything and how they applied their powers. It was pretty damn cool.
It's very easy to be enthralled by this show's production because obviously everyone working on this show was firing on all cylinders, but I think it's worth mentioning that Sung-Hoo Park has kind of built this reputation for himself now as, working on these high adrenaline action shows and just like killing it pretty much every time.
Yeah. I mean, Garo Vanishing Line was not as big of a project. That was also done by MAPPA, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I mean, he seems to be just an in-house guy for Mappa. He's not necessarily a freelancer, I guess. I'm not sure. All his big projects are Mappa projects. God of High School was as well. So it's great. Actually, I would have wanted to see how he handled the new season of Attack on Titan, but then again, I'm glad he was, responsible for Jujutsu Kaisen instead, because that show, looked just ridiculously good. I liked it a lot. Also, just if people are wondering, because I noticed it myself, John and I recorded these 2 sections that we did, the sneak peek and the review of Jujutsu Kaisen separately from another sneak peek in the evening, and now Jujutsu Kaisen in the morning. So if we sound not yet quite ready for podcast recording, I apologize, but that's how it goes. Sometimes the time schedule just doesn't work out perfectly. So the energy of the show has to work by itself. We are not ready to deliver it yet. So, but yeah, speaking of great things, what's also great in the show is the soundtrack. Headed again by Arisa Okehazama, who was also responsible for the music in God of High School, and she is helped by Hiroaki Tsutsumi, who delivered a staggeringly beautiful soundtrack for Dr. Stone, and is working on Tokyo Revengers right now, which I just talked about in the sneak peek. Kind of a surprise Dark Horse thingy. Last one in the group is Yoshimasa Terui, who also worked on the theme songs for High Score Girl and Danmachi, or I think Danmachi's second season, I'm not sure. And the soundtrack in Jujutsu Kaisen is just as good as what you might expect from this trio. There are some moody tunes for the more horror-focused aspects of the show, which there are a lot of. It's a very gruesome show at points, not only in terms of gory visuals or something, but also from an emotional standpoint. It can be very horror-focused and disturbing. There are some somber tracks for the more sentimental story beats, and some real ass-kicking bangers for the fights, often enriched by vocals. It's like these insert songs that are, that have been just used just like you would use a vocal song for an OP or an ED. Yeah, some of them could be something right out of a Persona game even. There's one track playing in a specific fight and kind of the second third of the show where that happens. I was like, hey, this sounds like a Persona track. This is weird, but it was super cool. And especially the last fight in the show comes to mind, where not only do we get one of the best looking battles in the whole season, but also the beats of the soundtrack are timed with certain attacks of our heroes, which... just inject that shit right into my veins.
That shit is the best.
I love it when they do that stuff in trailers. I loved it when people did it in AMVs, and I goddamn love the shit out of it in this show. Also, I think that specific song was done by Coltrane, who also did the amazing OP Mayday for Fire Force Season 2, and We Are Not Alone for Rainbow. And yeah, it's fantastic. I was like, hey, this is awesome shit. This is Coltrane, isn't it? Oh, great. And I love that song, and I love that scene that it was playing and how it was timed with the visuals and everything. And when that combined super moves hit and everything, oh my god, it's so good. It's so well done. Anyway, I'm nerding out. Sorry. The music,
no big deal, man.
Yeah, it's justified though. The music in JJK is fantastic. John, what did you think about it in general?
I mean, it was great, pretty much beginning to end. Like, it definitely was one of the better soundtracks that really sticks in my head from an anime in a long while. And like you said, Hazama worked on the God of High School as well. And, that's a really good high action soundtrack as well.
Yeah, high octane stuff. Yeah.
There's just something about this one that I feel like stands out a little bit more.
It seems a bit more varied, a bit more versatile, I guess, with a bunch of different styles mixed in between, and a bit more playful at parts, where the God of High School soundtrack seems to be a bit more straightforward for most of its, most of the runtime of the show. And this sometimes has some quirky stuff in there. If you only have to think of the weird eye-catcher soundbite that is part of a song from the soundtrack, that sounds just so weird, discordant and everything, but it works really well when that song actually hits on the show. So, so it feels like that the soundtrack of JJK is a lot more yeah, is a lot more interesting and different in a lot of parts, and just knows when to hit with the right songs at the right time when it needs some real bangers. So yeah, cool shit. Also, the OPs and EDs of the show are incredible. Kai Kai Kitan by Eve is great, but I think I like Vivid Vice by Huya Extended even more, especially that guitar strum at the end, after which the whole OP runs in reverse. It's metal as hell.
That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, also surprisingly enough, actually related to one of the characters in the show, which I did not put together. And it was like when that part of the story happens, I was like, oh, that.
Yeah, I thought
that's where
the
that's
same thing.
from.
I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool set piece, with the guitar. It's like, all right, sure. And then you find out what it actually is, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, I really like it when the OP actually implements stuff like from the show without spoiling it, which is a problem with anime OPs, which I think those two really don't. They showcase some of the fights, but it's not like there's some surprises or weird, plot points that are revealed in the show. And I just recently watched a new OP of Black Clover. And that gives away, like, I don't know what the fuck, like 3 plot developments in a row. And I think Wit Studio is a big offender in that regard. Like both the OPs to Attack on Titan, to all Attack on Titan seasons that they handled, and Vinland Saga are super spoilery. Like, holy fucking shit, they give away so fucking much of the story. It's ridiculous.
I don't know if it's really sort of the same thing, but it's an original show. Back Arrow's new OP was like, hey, here's something you haven't seen yet, and you sort of see it and you're like, guys.
Yeah, that's the question. It always depends on, can you actually already make sense of it, or does it make sense after you've watched the actual thing happening in the show? There's two things, but I feel like the Wit Studio stuff was so fucking obvious, like in the second season of Attack on Titan, when they show any like sinister dark side, and you see the female Titan. Yeah, okay, who could that be, right? It's yeah, should like
shut up, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and then with in Vinland Saga, where some of the characters just disappear into the snow, like actually dispersing into snow, and you're like, okay, they're gonna die, obviously, or at least some of them. And it's just so like, visual metaphors are fun, but if they give away important plot points and surprises, that's not what you do. Be more general about it.
That's why I liked, and a mutual friend of ours pointed it out to us after the fact in JoJo's Golden Wind, the way they David Production very purposely divided certain characters onto one side of the key art and certain others onto the other side. And after watching it, you look at it and you say,
oh no. Yeah. And that's a cool thing, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's when you do that shit, you would never look at that and be like, oh, okay, that's what that is supposed to mean. And then after you've actually watched the show, you're like, oh, fuck, you bastards, you magnificent bastards. And it's really like, I don't know, some studios do it more than others. Like Puro does it apparently with the spoilery stuff, and the Wit Studio for some reason. Don't know what their deal is in that regard, because the OP for the first core of the final season of Attack on Titan by MAPPA, it shows you shit that is kind of related to what is happening in the show, but it's not. It's vague. Like you see an atom bomb exploding, and that actually has kind of a relation to what happens at some point in the show, but it's also just general war imagery. So it doesn't necessarily mean that immediately what is going to happen in the show when you look at that shit. So that I prefer those. I mean, you can show me battles or something like, okay, here's some interesting characters. I don't know who these characters are, and it just means, okay, there's going to be some cool battle shit. But don't show me characters suddenly who were good guys looking super sinister for some reason and looking into the camera like with fucking Gendo eyes or something from Evangelion. Yeah, what the fuck? Don't do that. Don't do that to me. Don't give away a bad heel turn in your show or something. That's bad form. Anyway, also not characters dying. That's also, you don't show that. And yeah. Also don't put that in your previews for the next episodes. Toei loves to do that, like or in the episode titles. Goku dies. What a tragedy.
Oh my god. Toei is bad about that, but when Funimation was first starting to localize some of those episodes of DBZ, oh my god. It's like, will Vegeta survive this next encounter? Blah blah blah. And the episode title is literally like the Prince of Saiyans dies. I'm like,
yeah.
off.
Yeah, and One Piece has some offending titles in that regard as well, where it's just in the preview of the next episode, because it shows the title, it says you what's gonna happen. That character dies. What a shame. And we're like, yeah, what a shame that I know about it now already. Since then, I stopped watching the previews, and I mean,
thanks for being too on the nose, guys.
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, if we said as a tradition of being stupid, I don't understand. Oh, but yeah, let's get back to fucking Jujutsu Kaisen. Us and our tangents. Anyway, I wasn't even done with the OP and ED section because we haven't talked about the best song in the show yet, and that is the first ED, Lost in Paradise by Ali. It's probably the catchiest fucking anime song I've heard in a while. Yeah. Not to be mentioned, it's also paired with some really charming rotoscope dancing animation from our main characters in casual clothing and everything. It's very delicious.
It's so stylish and I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. I rewatched Jujutsu Kaisen with two friends of mine online, and when they saw that ED for the first time, they were like, holy shit, I would watch a show that looks like this. Give me that. Like, don't worry, the actual show is gonna look really good as well. So
I love that a friend of ours saw that ending sequence out of context and was like, oh, this is what the show's about. And then he saw the opening sequence and was like, oh, this is what the show's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, come on, man, just give it a chance, man. He's like, nah.
Well, I mean, at least we got him to watch JoJo's, so there's that.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, doing the Lord's work, I guess. Lord Araki's work.
Makes me a little sad though, because it's a great ending sequence. Ali is always, they've done a few great songs now that we've heard, like Here and Beastars. They were slated to perform the intro theme for The World Ends With You, but then their drummer got mixed up in some really bad fraud shit, and they lost that gig.
Ooh, that sucks.
Which
for
is
the rest
why
of the team band members.
Yeah, which is why The World Ends With You now has a version of the song Twister from In-Game as its opening theme.
Interesting. I mean, I've not heard that in the game itself, so that reference is probably lost on me, and I would have recognized Ali, but yeah. I
mean, Twister's a pretty fucking good ass song, so it's a good choice.
Yeah.
But it sucks.
It sucks that the choice had to be made like that. That's true. Yeah. Well, I hope they get their bearings again and maybe change drummers. So.
Yeah, probably, because it's not cool to hustle people out of their money at the ATM when they're taking it out.
Yeah, definitely not. What the fuck? I mean, you have a successful band. Why is that even necessary? Weird.
I don't know, man.
Anyway, some people just can't have enough, I guess. But I don't know the details, so who am I to judge? Now, animation and music were already great in Sang-woo Park's other recent project, but as both of us know, John, the story in God of High School was mostly just a bunch of rushed loud nonsense, which is unnecessarily a downside as long as it flows well, which it did in my opinion, and I enjoyed the pure insanity of it all. But a lot of people were turned off by it. Also, our three mains aside, there was not that much character development going on in that show, if at all. I mean, we weren't bothered by it. Like I said, I'm pretty sure both of us were on the same page because it was just so fun and ridiculous. Looking at all the crazy action and shit like that. But yeah, it was barely holding itself together at the same time. So So how does Jujutsu Kaisen fare in that regard? Well, I'd say about 200% better. First of all, the characters in the show are great, starting with our main man, Yuji, who is physically gifted, as mentioned in the summary, and is a really nice guy who should be in the track team, but kind of that interferes with his, with his schedule and the stuff with his grandfather and everything. So he went to the occult club and found some friends there, and those get into trouble when, they unearth the finger of Ryomen Sukuna. And yeah, so that's what all that kicks into gear. The only sad part about this, after that, we don't see the members of the occult club anymore, and those seemed like two fun characters. So I don't know, I hope they will make a comeback later in the show, but it feels like they were just there to show you what kind of character is Yuji is in the beginning, and that he's a nice guy and just likes to hang out with his friends and supports them and stuff like that, and then to give him someone to rescue in the first battle. So was a bit weird to me, but then again, the show is populated by so many cool characters that it's not much of a problem if, those two don't necessarily appear again. It was just a bit weird to me. But yeah, then we have the stuff with this grandfather who dies with regrets and, tells Yuji to help as many people as possible so he doesn't die alone. So he has friends, so he has people who will mourn him, who will tell his stories after he died. And that is not what apparently his grandfather did, because Yuji's the only one there. No one else seems to be around to care about him. And that's really sad, and he doesn't want Yuji to end up the same way. And Yuji takes that to heart. Yeah, and then the stuff happens where he has to, or decides to, swallow the finger of Sukuna, which gives him powers and makes him the host of that powerful cursed spirit being, whatever. Curses can be everything. They can be techniques. They can manifest as actual monsters. They can manifest as human-like creatures. So it's curses are basically magic in this kind of its manifestation in some form or another. So it can be anything, really. And yeah, then he vanquishes the monster and gets kind of taken out by Satoru Gojo, who's, Jesus Christ, talk about OP, who then brings him back. This is actually how the show starts, with a quick fast forward where right at the beginning, where Yuji is already trapped and prepared to be executed. And then Satoru sees like, okay, he actually can control Sukuna in a way and can decide when he's let out. So that's a new thing. So I can make use of that. So he gives Yuji kind of a choice. He can die now or be executed after he has absorbed all of Sukuna. First of all, shitty choice for him.
What a choice. Do you want to die now or die later?
Yes, when you are maybe not yourself anymore. But yeah, also kind of maybe dumb idea by Satoru. If one finger of Ryomen Sukuna is already so strong that they can't destroy it, what makes him think that they can even touch a version of Yuji that has absorbed all fingers? Are they expecting him to just hand himself over or be in control of himself at that point? Because I don't think that will happen. I mean, it could, because, they're alluding to some things with Sukuna that he might maybe join forces with Yuji at some point. They're definitely not there yet, because Sukuna already made like a backhanded deal with Yuji at some point that he doesn't remember and stuff like that. So he erased his memory of that. So he's definitely playing his own game and playing by his own agenda. Although that is helpful in certain parts of the show, because Sukuna just doesn't give a shit who pisses him off. If you piss him off, if you are a good guy or a bad guy, you get the boot, the boot to the head. So there are some hard lessons learned there for some people, both on the good and bad side. Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But so far, that has not really come to pass. He's more of like this looming terror in the background, and is in some key scenes of this first season where he turns the tide of the battle, I guess. But it's not like he has completely taken over Yuji now, and the other characters have to deal with him. Also, he seems to be interested in Megumi for some reason. I guess because Megumi is from a prestigious line of sorcerers or something, and he sees some hidden potential in him when they clash. So Megumi might actually be the one who eventually is the guy who kind of pulls Sukuna over to the good side or something, or makes him bond with Yuji. Who knows? That's my assumption. It's just, what might happen, in my opinion. I don't know how you see it, John, if that is what they are maybe setting up. But I get a feeling that this is where this is going.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure what angle they're going to take.
Mm.
I think you've got some good ideas, and those all seem like possibilities, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not 100% sure which way.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. He's probably going to get more screen time in the second season and further on, and become more of an important player. First season is more about people trying to actually make him stronger and pull him over to their side in a way, and use him as the inciting factor to some of their plans and shit like that. So he's more of a background character in this season that some people try to use it as a tool, and the other party tries to exercise them eventually, but he has not made his own moves yet that much. A couple, but not many.
And yet, best villain of the year according to the Anime Awards.
Whoa. Don't have to add anything to that. We have said everything we had to say on that matter in our talk about the Anime Awards. So that was one of those super ridiculous choices that made no sense whatsoever, especially considering the other contenders in that category. What even? Anyway,
like the potential is there. So
yes,
I'm hoping...
absolutely. I think Sukuna is a fun character. Like, he doesn't mess around. He's a lot of fun when he lets loose. He's also terrifying. There's a lot of potential there. He just hasn't had enough screen time yet to make him work as an actual important villain or an important character. Period. So we'll see. It's basically his fame is more important right now than what he is actually doing. So yeah, and there's a lot of fun had with Yuji's, like I said, very sympathetic guy, but there's also a lot of fun had with him, and the show is very funny. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of small gags in the background. There's a lot of visual information overload, and if you watch it the second time, you pick up visual gags that you haven't picked up the first time and stuff like that. So it can be a really funny show, and a lot of that is done with Yuji, who is into girls like Jennifer Lawrence. Okay. There's some references in this show that are really fun. There's also a part where he trains under Satoru, and he wants to learn a curse technique that lets him do basically a Rasengan from Naruto, or a Bankai from Bleach, or a Kamehameha, and he mentions those by name. Like, the show definitely knows its roots, and it's really fun. It's very cute, and in general, Yuji is one of the most gosh darn sympathetic main characters in a shonen anime I've seen in a while. Like, he's up there with Deku. He's a lot of fun, and I don't know. It's easy to see why he's good at making friends. Like, I would be friends with that guy. Like, I would hang out with Yuji and watch movies. Absolutely. So yeah. But there's also some meat to his character. It's not just like your jolly main protagonist. Like we said, the stuff with his grandfathers and what he draws from those words. And then he comes to a point in the show where he might have to kill people, and he doesn't want to. He says, if I killed someone, the option of killing would force its way into my life. The value of life would become ambiguous, and I wouldn't understand the importance of those I care about anymore. Which is a very interesting version of, let's say, the new age Batman approach to that whole logic, or that whole topic, I guess. His words are always, if I start killing people, I degrade myself so much I could never return from that abyss. So it's like, yeah, I can see that. But also, the show doesn't really let him live after that mantra due to, circumstances and everything. So he has to find a new way to cope with that, and to define for himself what it means for everyone to have a proper death. Not only himself, right? Like his grandfather expected him to, but also like, if I have to kill someone, how can I make this a proper death? How can I, how can I not, I don't know, not humiliate that person? How can I live up to the expectation that person maybe has of their death and stuff like that? It's really interesting. And he feels real sorrow over having to kill the curses. There's a scene in the last fight of the show, in the last mini arc, and he's moved to tears, and he's really sad that he had to do what he had to do. And I just really like this rise of compassionate heroes and shonen, who are not just like these screaming idiots and are just here to kick ass and stuff like that, but are really like, hey, fuck, this is some serious shit, and I don't feel good about it, and I feel really sorry for the people who got hurt here. Not only my friends, but also the enemies. And first we had Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, now Yuji. And it's a really nice change of pace, considering how straightforward and black and white shonen mains usually treat evil in the bigger battle-focused series. I dig it a lot. I think it's a cool way to go. It makes the main characters more interesting. It makes the whole plight of certain evil quote-unquote characters more interesting. So yeah, I like that approach. What do you think about it, John?
It's good to give your characters more than one dimension.
Yeah. Absolutely, especially if they're already 2D.
So, seeing Yuji try to come to grips with this whole idea that, yeah, maybe I'm going to have to spill more blood than I, am going to want to, in trying to reason that out, it's kind of hard to justify something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So seeing him struggle with that is good. It shows that, there's depth to his character and his convictions. So, yeah, more of that. Give us, the more of these, like, I guess you'd say moral quandary that these characters have to solve, and they have to figure out, they have to make their own rules and their own boundaries, basically.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's interesting to see each character figure out what they actually want to draw out of all this whole confrontation and everything. And a lot of cool characters just in general in this show. We have already talked about Megumi, who is like this, spirit summoner. He can summon all these kind of demon animals. He has 2 good boys, like dogs, as Shikigami. He has like this bird creature called Nue. He has this giant ass snake. So he has a bunch of different animals. And his Shikigami inherit the XP from the previous ones who were killed, like he created. So even if one of his Shikigami dies, like the next one that he creates inherits that power that was accumulated and gets stronger through that. So that's a really cool mechanic that I don't think I've seen before, and it makes for a pretty spectacular scene when he summons a stronger good boy in the later part of the season. And yeah, it's pretty damn cool. I liked what they did with him. In the beginning, he's like he doesn't really want to go out on a limb. Like maybe he doesn't want to save someone who might kill someone else later. He's really very conservative in that regard, and he's just going full risk aversion. It's like, hey, I need to think of the greater good and everything. But some of that changes when he meets Yuji and everything, and some of that thought process. So it's really cool. Also, we learned that he has a bedridden sister later in the show, and there's some interesting stuff they do with that. In general, there's like he gets the most development kind of in the beginning and in the final mini arc. At that point, we hadn't really learned super much about him. We had seen some character development, but then we get some background on him and why he's the way he is. Apparently, he was a problem child to beat up delinquents, which doesn't really match his outer appearance, but it's super fun to learn and what that entails and everything. So I like that. I like that twist they put in there. And yeah, there's even a dumb baseball game later in the show, and as it turns out, which is great, it was fantastic, but it also turns out that plays some part in developing Megumi's character traits, and Satoru like picks up on that, like on his weaknesses, and telling them then how to overcome them and stuff like that for, in general, his character weaknesses. So it's really cool. I like Megumi a lot. I think they will probably do some interesting stuff with him in the coming season, considering he's the thing that apparently piques Sukuna's interest the most. So there's probably gonna be some really crazy shit with those characters. One of my other favorites is Nobara, who is our main girl, I guess, who is apparently really good at Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Jesus Christ, when she dropped that, I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Sorry?
But also she's just a really fun character. To quote someone from AF, she's an angry idiot gremlin badass. She's goofy and serious in equal turns, competent but with lots of room to grow, and thus far never sexualized. That stays true. She's not even really depicted as cute, honestly. Also true. In short, she's great if JJK can keep from sidelining or damseling her while also developing her alongside the lads. The series is well on its way to being my surprise favorite of the season. The latter part about the damseling and sidelining her, I was a bit worried about that because like the first part, like first big battle with a big turn for Yuji and everything, she kind of gets taken out pretty quickly. And in the competition that comes up later in the show, she also, has a smaller parkour part, but also smaller, at least in the beginning. So I was like, But then, Jesus Christ. The final mini arc of the show is just talk about turning her into a complete badass. Like that's we even have some cool parts in the beginning. Like there's this we have like these two sisters, Mai and Maki, who have a thing going on, and Nobara is friends with Maki, and Mai is like, hey, I had a tough childhood and my sister is responsible for that, so I have the right to be mean to her and stuff like that. And then Nobara says, having a tough childhood doesn't give you the right to be an asshole. And that is just a strong scene just in general where he just lays it on her and takes a stand for Maki and for Yuji. And then when she says she loves herself when she is strong, that's such a kick-ass moment. Nobara is a fucking badass, and that final fight with her and Yuji together in the show is also a fucking looker. It's amazing. I loved it.
I guess you could say they really nailed it.
Oh, god damn it, John. I had that coming, I guess. Also, she and Yuji are a fucking dream team when it comes to the comedic scenes in the show. Like
my god, they're so funny together.
They are so great together. They made me laugh every time. Like when they take jabs at each other, when they team up to take jabs at Megumi and stuff like that. They can be really funny shitheads when they're together. It's like they bring out the worst in each other, and it's super fun to look at. So yeah, I loved her. I think Nobara is great.
Yeah, a couple of stupid teenagers enabling each other's stupidity, really.
Yes, absolutely. Another important character, we have so many, is Satoru. We have talked about him before as well, Satoru Gojo, who turns out is a very pretty boy. Didn't really expect, but damn is he. And I don't know, he's a student, but also a teacher at Jujutsu Tech, I think. But he's kind of like a playful trickster guy, really. You always wonder what his deal is, right? I mean, he makes a pretty big statement at certain points. You get the idea, you know what he's trying to do. He's trying to do his own shit in regards to Yuji and tries to just piss off one of the elder people in the Jujutsu society, I guess, what you want to call it. And one of the higher ups, he's constantly starting a beef with that guy and being like super coy and a dipshit towards him, which I love because that character is also an asshole, even though he has a badass weapon. But you wonder, sometimes it's like, okay, what is Satoru's deal here? What is he trying to do? And is he taking all the characters' plights into account? Is he acting in their best interest, or is he doing his own thing? But it's super fun. Him just fucking with the principal of the academy, of Kyoto Academy, is really fun. And I think Satoru is a lot of fun, just in general. One of the main characters together with Yuji and Nobara, who is responsible for the best jokes in the show and stuff like that. And he's also super OP. Like, talk about someone who completely annihilates basically everything that gets in his way. It's fucking ridiculous. And
his alias is the strongest sorcerer for a reason.
Yes, absolutely. And his fights. I mean, there's only one real big fight with him in the show that is super great to look at and everything, and really showcases why he is the strongest of the strong. But there's also another scene where it's like, okay, just don't get in that guy's way. Just fucking don't. You have no chance in hell to beat that dude, at least at this point. I mean, we probably, or with underhanded tricks, which the bad guys kind of do in the second half of the show. But stuff like that doesn't last long. Yeah, and then we have a bunch of other characters. Mainly some of them get introduced when we get to that team competition between the schools, between Tokyo and Kyoto later on and stuff like that. We have like this kid who can only talk in rice ball ingredients because he's a cursed speech user, and when he actually uses proper words, it it's dangerous to himself and to other people. You know, if he says stuff like "get away," it pushes people into a fucking mountain or shit like that, and that he gets feedback from these attacks. So his body experience reduced version of that impact, and so he can't do too many strong ones. He could never tell a person to die, otherwise he would probably die himself.
Like the human equivalent of the power word spell in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Which is, interesting on its face.
Obviously, yeah. We also have Panda, who is also part of the Tokyo group. Definitely inspired by Tekken, that character, I would say.
Yeah.
how he was brought up, what he is, kind of in a way. Well, not really. It's different here, but still, it's like there's a scene in this show where it's like specifically, this is Heihachi and Kuma, only, this show's version of that. There's Mekamaru, who is basically cursed wooden Iron Man or something, and they do some interesting stuff with these characters when they clash. It's really cool. I like it a lot. There's also Nanami, who's kind of like this teacher / instructor that becomes also important in this at the end of the first half of the show, who is a real badass. Like, I love him, and he hates work. Work is shit. I can relate to Nanami when he says that.
Oh, it's after 5 o'clock. I guess that's overtime. I'm punching out. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
He's fucking great. I had to laugh so hard when he says, I realized one thing, sorcerers are shit, but then I realized something else. Work is also shit. so I might as well do the work that I'm good at or shit like that. It's great. He's a great character. I really liked him a lot. I hope they bring him back for later plot stuff.
I also loved, after the fact, I was pointed out the pun in his name. Because what his fighting style revolves around.
Okay. I must have not picked that up.
Well, his Nana Mi uses his 7-3 fighting style.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, Jeff Thew pointed that out after the fact. I was like, fuck.
Yeah. But that's clever. That's cool. I like it.
It is.
Yeah, and I mentioned Mai and Maki before, the two sisters. Mai is with the Kyoto gang, Maki is with the Tokyo gang, and they're basically Nina and Anna Williams from Tekken. Again, a Tekken reference.
Yeah.
Like they hail from the prestigious Zenin family, which I think Megumi was also kind of affiliated with. But yeah, Maki was born without the ability to see curses, but had immense physical strength. And that skill was not acknowledged by her family, so she decided to emancipate herself, leave the family, and become the head of the family once she has become strong enough, which is super cool. The problem is she left Mai to fend for herself, who didn't actually want to become a sorcerer, and is now forced to be better than her sister. A lot of pressure on her, and she feels betrayed by her sister, who said she would never leave her alone, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of history between those two that's problematic. But Maki at some point says if she hadn't tried to strive for her full potential, she would have hated herself. So she had to do it, and that's relatable and that's understandable. We'll see if those two can, sort out the differences. In the later seasons, I would love to see that, to see a reunion of the sisters. But right now, that isn't happening. But yeah, let's get to, finally, my favorite character in the show. Or one of the absolute favorites. And that is Todo. And Todo is... How to explain Todo? He is a melee monster, first of all, who hates men with boring taste in women. If you like men, that's fine too, as long as you're not boring, so that's cool. But he likes tall women with a big ass, quoting him directly. And it's fun when, he and the gang from Kyoto encountered some of the Tokyo guys for the first Tokyo group for the first time. Megumi fails his test, and boy, does he get his ass handed to him.
Spectacularly.
Oh, yeah, shit. Todo is a fucking monster. But then, in the actual competition, when Yuji mentions that he likes the same type of woman that he does, he immediately imagines him and Yuji being best friends in a high school coming-of-age drama, which was fucking amazing. Like, I laughed so hard when that happened. I was like, holy fucking shit.
It's like the show changed genre for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, and the whole visual style, it becomes like this really flowery color palette and everything, and it feels super nostalgic and stuff like that. It's like, am I watching Slam Dunk for some reason? What is happening? And it's super cool. And he starts calling him my best friendo. And later, brother.
My brother.
My brother. And yeah, Yuji's and Todo's bromance gives me so much life. It's
good, dude.
Yeah, and also it's weird. Like, you expect him to be this dumb, loudmouth, punchy guy, and he is, but he's also kind of a true philosopher in a funny way. Like, he has some really good stuff to say in the show, and he gives Yuji some really good advice and how to act in battle and how to find his own way of fighting and everything. He feels like a Zen Buddhist kind of guy in a way. It's really cool, and his boogie woogie technique is super interesting. And yeah, he has like this idol he really loves, and he meets up every time, like Takada-chan, who is also in his mind helping him realize stuff quickly, where like they talk it out in his mind space, and then he does something because he figured it out, and then it says, this happened in only 1 second, the talk in his head and shit like that. He's a super funny character. I love Todo. I think he's amazing. He's one of the best shonen characters I've seen in a while. Like that. And the fights with him and Yuji in the show are fucking bonkers. Like, that fight where they team up together is just so good. It's so fucking amazing. The choreography on that and what is happening and how surprising it is in parts and just the moves that are put on screen. Oh, God, I love it. I think it's great. Oh, fantastic. What a character. Definitely one of my favorites. And there's so many good characters here. So, an embarrassment of riches. Quickly talking about the villains, there are not that many big players in this season. Like, there's a main faction that comes into play rather quickly, and we have a guy called Mahito in there who is kind of the puppet master and the instigator for some of the things that happen, at least in the first half of the show, and it's really grueling and stuff like that. And he's a real asshole. He's horrible. He's basically like a curse who acts like a child really in a way, because he's just come into his own or gained consciousness, and he's really playful but also really cruel. And he's a horrible character. And he is and his buddy Geto, who we get a hint that he was involved in some big shit that Todo also was involved in, but we haven't heard the details about that yet. But it makes me think that Geto is the real, like, he is the main guy, like the main guy who drives the plot and who is the big evil. And he hasn't really taken center stage yet, just like Sukuna hasn't. And most of the stuff that is done in the first season is done by Mahito. But he and Geto hang out together, and there's some other characters mixed in that are also basically the muscle for them and who help them and are part of some of the biggest fights on the show and stuff like that. Talking about that group, I guess it's okay to show burning people again, because holy shit, that bar scene. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I thought, they would punch the break a bit longer, after that fiasco happened with Kyoto Animation, and they had to cut out some of the stuff on Fire Force or put some black bars over that, but apparently not anymore. That scene was fucking horrifying.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then we also, in the first half of the show, we get a character that's kind of manipulated by Mahito into becoming a kind of friends with Yuji, and then some bad shit happens, and the stuff between him, Junpei is his name, and his story is tragic, really tragic. And the show kind of does something with its OP where it fucks with you a bit. And
it does.
It's really mean. It's really mean. It's really, really horrible. So, I won't say anything more about that. But I was like, what? You fucking lied to me. So, when he and Yuji become friends, I like that scene. They connect over movies and become fast friends. It's really sweet. And then Junpei's mom appears, and she's also really nice. And then makes what happens afterwards even more horrible than it already is anyways. So it's the show, if it wants you to suffer along with the characters, it will do so. It did for me. I was really distraught at what happened at the end of the first half of the show. It gets really serious and really dark. And after that, it becomes really fun with the competition again, and it stays actiony, and there's a threat, but it's more lighthearted. It's just lighthearted action in a way. But the end of the first half of the show is just, it will destroy you. Really, it's horrible. It also is really satisfying, kind of in a way, how that wraps up, though. So there's at least that, especially because Nanami and Yuji kind of do a tag team thing against Mahito and beat the ever-loving shit out of him, which feels really good. Like, Yuji literally punches Mahito's soul in the face. That is good stuff and feels very justified. And I was happy that was in there because he had it coming, definitely. And I can't wait when they fucking kill his ass for good, because he more than deserves it. And it was also one of the best looking fights in the show.
I think that was probably like my favorite fight.
Yeah, it's really, it's not about only, you know, the actual trading of blows that is great and well animated, but Mahito assuming a bunch of insane shapes and forms is wicked and sometimes truly disgusting. Like him suddenly turning into a laughing, smiling child for a while perfectly like reflects his appalling, playful nature. And likewise, at the same time, Yuji is struggling with his fighting the, you know, some of the creatures in the show, which, you know, won't give away why, but it makes a lot of sense why he doesn't want to fight them or kill them. And yeah, they really sell his despair through his facial animation. So just the animation in general, character animation and fighting animation in that episode is just top notch, like unbelievable. It's such a showpiece blockbuster, and it only gets really wild once Mahito unleashes his domain expansion, which we really haven't talked about. It's like this technique where the sorceress or the curses can create like their own sealed off area in a way. And basically certain rules are applied there. And you can only break out of there from the inside if you destroy the person or, you know, disable the person that has cast that domain expansion, and every hit in that domain is a guaranteed hit and shit like that, and you get some wild terrain change, like suddenly you're in a volcano or shit like that, or in outer space. And yeah, it's wild. Domain expansions are really interesting, and what they do with that, and how some of that stuff comes to bite Mahito in the ass in that episode. It's so satisfying. It's so good. It's like, holy fucking shit, you idiot. You should have thought of that. And it's so clever.
He didn't, and he got fucked.
Yeah, it's really good. So looking forward to watching that eventually again. Because, man, that is satisfying considering all the shit that he pulled before that. And that made me really sad. So yeah, it's really cool. And Mahito is, of course, a bit of a bind. He can't kill Yuji because he wants to revive Sukuna, and that's kind of, seems to be, for now anyway, kind of the goal of his gang and Geto's gang and stuff like that. So he can't kill Yuji yet because he wants him to basically eat all the fingers, but he can psychologically torment him and thrust him into despair until he is no longer strong enough to resist Sukuna and gets taken over permanently. So that seems to be their goal right now, to wear him down, the wear down long game. So we'll see if that holds any success. Meanwhile, Sukuna is also doing his own shit in Yuji's mind. So who knows who will be successful with what. Like I said, they do some stuff. They are the most important players in this first season. We'll see where it goes. There's a lot of potential there for the coming seasons and what they do with those characters. But yeah, story-wise, that's basically it. It's like, hey, we got the introductions to our characters. That some shit happens with Sukuna and Yuji that changes things a bit in terms of what Yuji's role is in the whole shit. I don't want to give that away because that was also kind of a surprise. And then we get the stuff where Mahito and Junpei, and you know, that wraps up and at the half point of the show, and then we get the training exercise between Tokyo and Kyoto. And that is really cool, and that's kind of the show. Then there's this little mini arc with Megumi kind of as the main focus in the final 3 episodes of the show, I think. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the season, and it's really cool. I think it's really well paced. I was never bored. I never had an episode where it was like, move it on, guys. But there was also always an interesting conversation if there was no fight, and if there were fights, it was like, holy fucking shit, give me more. So I loved it.
I think we didn't mention his name up to this point, but I think the writing was so strong because a lot of the composition and scripting was done by someone we've run across before.
Oh, yeah.
Seko.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrote a lot of Attack on Titan, Mob Psycho 100, and Vinland Saga. So, yeah.
I don't know what happened in regards to Decadence.
Oh,
he wrote that as well, I think.
That's right, he did.
Yes, so that should, for all intents and purposes, have been really good story-wise, and it's fine. It's just like there's some oversights where it's like, really? Seiko wrote this? This is weird. I wouldn't expect him to. But maybe he's better at adaptions. I don't fucking know. But yeah, he does a really good job here. I mean, I haven't read the manga, so I don't know how the adaptation changed the initial script and how the story flows in the manga. I wonder, because we get like these little ending skits that are comedy bits after every episode, where it's like the characters doing something at a different point of time in the show, really together, and it's kind of just always played for laughs and everything. But it also kind of sometimes it adds to those characters, so it's worth watching those. So I wonder if those were maybe also in the manga, like legit during the part of the story. And they took those out to make the story in the anime flow better. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's interesting. So I wonder how much they took stuff out or put some additional character building scenes in there for the adaptation, or if it's just a panel by panel copy paste job. It doesn't feel like it. I've seen some copy paste jobs when it came to anime adaptations of manga. Like I said, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Hunter x Hunter, both those remakes are kind of guilty of that in certain parts of the show during their runtime. There are some parts where you're like, that is not how you should handle an adaptation. You're not adapting, you're just copy pasting. So stop that. but Jujutsu Kaisen never felt like it for me. Aside from maybe a bit of character overload, which is inherent to shonen series in general, usually, and some characters getting introduced and then not appearing again for a while. You think they're important and they're not important. But again, that's probably part of the manga anyway. So, like, when in the final arc of the season, there's like this new blonde female instructor that we've never seen before, who's suddenly around with the gang and then has like very important, endearing scenes with them. And you're like, hey, this is a cool character. Why have we never met her before? Was she even mentioned? Was she shown at some point? What is happening? I didn't even get her name because on my subs it didn't show up. It was just a fucking white box where her name was supposed to be. Oops. So I don't know who that character is. Those were some weird things that stuck out to me. It was like, okay, some of these characters feel like they come out of nowhere and then they stick around or they don't. But, the characters that the focus is on are so good that I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't care. That's the thing, and I feel Jujutsu Kaisen is already better about that than My Hero Academia. Maybe, we'll see. It's the first season, so we'll see if that more and more characters get introduced later, and we lose sight of our mains. But so far, the first season has been really good at developing our main cast, like at a steady basis. Like giving Yuji enough stuff, giving Megumi enough stuff, giving Satoru enough screen time, giving Nobara enough screen time, and I will consider those our 4 main characters. So the villains get enough screen time. The villains get like little side scenes where only they appear and they have conversations and stuff like that. There are a bunch of those, which is kind of rare. It's like, hey, you get a real insight into how they're strategizing, how they're playing, how they're planning their next moves and everything. So that was really cool. And yeah, I feel like the show puts in the time that it is necessary for all the characters to develop at least enough that you get engaged. And I get the feeling that this will continue in the coming seasons because that feels the way that this is written. And I like that. I liked it a lot. I think that's great. And I hope it's going to like stay with its main cast for longer. And we still need to learn more about Nobara, and we still need to learn more about Megumi. And if they keep on focusing on those, that would be really cool. So we'll see.
Shonen anime with focus?
That would be ridiculous. I know.
What?
And I mean, like I said, we get enough characters. There are enough characters introduced in the competition exam thing, training exercise that we might or might not really learn much about. I mean, we learned something about Mekamaru. We learned something about Panda. We haven't really learned about the cursed speech kid. I forgot his name. But there might some stuff be happening too. But for now, they seem to be focusing on the main characters, which is really good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this and to more of this. But yeah, I pretty much have said all that I can say about this show already. There's one little thing. I noticed a poster made up in the font of the movie Cats on the side of the cinema that Junpei goes to, saying dogs instead. And I chuckled at that.
That's right.
That's... I don't know why that was in there, but that made me laugh for some reason. So I had to bring that up.
Because Tommy is just a movie guy.
Yeah, and also what made me laugh, apparently, as it turns out in the baseball game, everybody hates Toto. It's also such a good thing. Toto, everybody hates you, don't they? Yeah, I can see why, but he's still my favorite character. Anyway.
Part of the baseball game was Mekamaru's our pitcher, and they just bring out a pitching machine.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah, it's amazing. The baseball game is super fun. And like I said, it's not unimportant. It's just a fun gag because in the beginning they explain how this training exercise works. And first, like, hey, first it's like this battle royale thing, and then we're gonna have one-on-one fights like tournament style. And then Satoru's like, nah, tournaments, we always have tournaments. Fuck that. The higher-ups want that. I want a baseball game. And he fucks with the votes, and then they play a fucking baseball game instead. And it's great. Excellent. Fantastic. Like, the humor in the show is great. Not only the humor, everything in the show is great. Jujutsu Kaisen's first season was fucking fantastic. It was a breath of fresh air in certain parts. And when it comes to the shonen genre, it was a visual feast. Yeah, it was... got off high school with an actual story and developed characters. What's not to like? I mean, yeah. Jesus, a compassionate main character that's super fun and super endearing and sympathetic and everything, and a bunch of great side characters with enough development and some cool plot twists here and there, and just a really good look and fantastic animation. It's just ridiculous. Like, MAPPA doing the best work they've ever done in the show, and I hope they will deliver the goods in the second season as much. And I hope Sung Park stays on this adaptation forever if he wants to.
Do we have a second season confirmed? I know there's a movie on the way.
They might do the same thing they do for Demon Slayer, where it's like, hey, we're going to bridge the stuff with a movie and then we're going to do another season of the show. I don't know. Or they did that with Made in Abyss as well. Though that had other reasons, because that part of the story is too heavy for a TV series. I don't think they could have aired that uncensored. So holy shit. Yeah. Ugh. Whoa, what a downer. But yeah, I don't know. But I would the story to continue. Like that show was super successful. Like a lot of people watch Jujutsu Kaisen, so I can't imagine that adaptation not continuing.
Oh no, I just I didn't think they had for sure said anything.
No, they sometimes do that really late. So we'll see. I don't know what MAPPA is. MAPPA still has Attack on Titan on their plate. Though that is coming next year, the final core. Or yeah, it said winter, but who knows what that means, considering how many episodes might come or might not come, might be left. I don't know what they do with that. Maybe 10 episodes, maybe 8.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that they're either probably finishing up or are concluding working on currently is Zombieland Saga. But that aside, I don't know off the top of my head what else they might have their hands in. Probably some projects we just haven't looked at yet, or MAPPA is super busy. They always have a show in one season or another. So it has become a really big studio, and with some really high profile projects, they're basically in the new Madhouse, and that makes sense because they were founded by an ex-Madhouse guy. So true. It's that's where you go for your action anime, your hot action anime, but also for some quirky out there stories like Zombieland Saga or like Yuri on Ice, right? That was also handled by MAPPA. So they're a really high profile studio at this point. They have some stuff that it falls apart midway through or something, and it doesn't look as good or shit like that, or at least at a certain point. But so far, at least all the shows that they are doing looked interesting in one way or another, to at least check it out in a sneak peek. And with most of their shows, I stuck, at least for a while. So they're one of my favorite studios at this point, together with Wit, together with Bones. And I always look at what they have planned next. So I'm pretty sure they are gonna pop up on our radar again. Maybe not with Jujutsu Kaisen, but with something else. But we're probably going to check it out regardless. So we'll see. We'll see what it is. But I would love for it to be the next season of Jujutsu Kaisen. And if they do a cool movie that is actually continuing the story and it's not like your standard shonen movie that is just a side story, that would also be neat. I haven't looked at that info yet for that movie. So whatever. But yeah, first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. Fantastic shonen action anime. Do not miss it if you like that stuff. Great characters, great story, and definitely great presentation, both in animation, in artwork, and in the soundtrack. So yeah, it's, for me, a lot of thumbs up. I don't know. I only have 2, but if I had more, I would give more. So I loved it, and I think, John, you felt the same. I mean, if you had two more thumbs, like Sukuna. But yeah, this show was really great. A fucking visual feast, and all of the characters were just really just sympathetic and fun, and want to see more of them. And if you're interested in watching Jujutsu Kaisen, you can check it out on Crunchyroll and Verve, HBO Max.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yep.
Since when are they getting into anime?
They started recently, and this is a good get. So
yeah, absolutely, it's a high-profile show, definitely.
Apparently, it's also on Apple TV, and depending on where you live, it's on Netflix. So there you go. There's several ways to check this show out.
And you definitely should. So what are you waiting for? Get yourself some cursed action, but actually not cursed because it's really good. So get on it. And that is a wrap on the 110th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out our awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter @AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
Take care, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
A slimy tale of politics and revenge.
And if you fall off your board, just get back on it. The fun's infinite after all.